Alabama, a state rich in history and Southern charm, is also home to a chilling undercurrent of supernatural activity. From abandoned hospitals and haunted plantations to ghostly battlefields and eerie cemeteries, the state's haunted locales are steeped in tragedy, mystery, and dark legends. Across decades, witnesses have reported ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and even physical encounters that defy rational explanation. Tonight, we journey through 25 of Alabama's most haunted and terrifying places, where history and horror intertwine, and the echoes of the past refuse to rest. Sloss Furnaces in Birmingham, Alabama, stands as a towering relic of America's industrial past, a sprawling, iron-smelting complex that once powered the city's growth. Built in the late 19th century, it operated as a full-scale blast furnace until the early 1970s, producing iron under brutal, fiery conditions. While its rusted structures and towering smokestacks now draw photographers and history enthusiasts, Sloss Furnaces has also earned a darker reputation. It is widely regarded as one of the most haunted industrial sites in the United States. Generations of workers endured dangerous labor, extreme heat, and countless accidents, and many did not survive. Over time, legends have grown that the spirits of these men remain forever trapped within the twisted metal walkways and crumbling furnaces. Visitors to Sloss Furnaces often report hearing sounds that defy explanation. Footsteps echo along catwalks and metal staircases, the clanging of boots on steel, startlingly distinct even when no one else is present. Some claim to hear the rhythmic pounding of hammers striking anvils, as if unseen blacksmiths continue their work long after the furnaces went cold. These noises are frequently accompanied by distant screams, a terrifying reminder of the countless men who suffered burns, falls, or crushing accidents while working on the site. For many, the sounds are not merely echoes of machinery or wind, they feel deliberate, a haunting imprint of human struggle and pain. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena at Sloss. Visitors describe seeing workers in soot-streaked overalls moving purposefully along the metal walkways or disappearing into the depths of the blast furnaces. These apparitions often appear to be aware of onlookers, vanishing suddenly when approached, leaving only the sensation of cold air in their wake. Paranormal investigators suggest that these figures could be residual energy from past events, recorded impressions of the intense labor and suffering that once defined the site. Some accounts include multiple figures, walking in formation, or performing repetitive tasks, giving the unsettling impression that the industrial complex is still alive with activity long after its closure. The cold spots at Sloss Furnaces are particularly intense. Visitors have described sudden drops in temperature so severe that it feels as if they are walking through a solid wall of ice. These chills often occur in areas where accidents or deaths were most common, such as near furnaces or atop precarious catwalks. Alongside these cold spots, investigators frequently capture EVP's electronic voice phenomena of whispered warnings or distressed calls for help. While skeptics may attribute such recordings to background noise or interference, many paranormal teams insist that the voices are intelligible, urgent, and undeniably human, echoing the laborers' fear and pain from decades past. Sightings are not limited to shadows or sounds. Some visitors have reported sudden flickers of movement out of the corner of their eyes, glimpses of figures ascending staircases that lead nowhere or vanishing into steel structures. Others have felt sudden touches on their arms or shoulders, brief but unmistakable, with no one present to explain them. These encounters leave a lingering unease, a feeling that the industrial complex is not just haunted by echoes, but actively aware of those who walk within its walls. The history of Sloss Furnaces deepens the sense of lingering dread. Injuries were common, and safety measures were minimal. Many workers suffered severe burns, broken bones, and fatal accidents. Stories from the time speak of men who fell into furnaces, were crushed under machinery, or succumbed to the relentless heat. These tragedies, combined with the isolated, cavernous environment of the furnaces, likely contributed to the reputation of Sloss as a site where restless spirits linger. It is said that the intense emotions of pain, fear, and struggle left permanent impressions woven into the steel and stone of the complex. Paranormal investigators continue to be drawn to Sloss Furnaces, often at night when shadows deepen and silence allows even faint sounds to resonate. Using thermal imaging cameras, EMF detectors, and audio recording equipment, they frequently report anomalies that cannot be explained by natural causes. The catwalks in furnaces are hotspots, with sudden spikes in energy and unexplained movement detected repeatedly. Visitors often describe a sense of being watched, as if the spirits are aware of their presence and deliberately manifest to make themselves known, despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation. Sloss Furnaces remains a popular destination for both history enthusiasts and thrill seekers. Its massive blast furnaces, rusted catwalks, and looming smokestacks provide a stark glimpse into the harsh realities of industrial labor, while the paranormal activity adds a layer of chilling intrigue. Many who walk its corridors leave with stories of clanging footsteps, shadowy figures, and icy cold spots, carrying with them the impression that the men who built and died within this iron empire are far from gone. Sloss Furnaces stands as a monument not only to Birmingham's industrial heritage, but also to the enduring presence of its past. The clang of invisible hammers, the whispers of unseen voices, and the shadowy silhouettes of long-dead workers serve as a constant reminder that some places do not relinquish their history easily. At night, when the wind whistles through the rusted structures and the moon casts skeletal shadows across the walkways, the furnaces are alive in a way that history books cannot capture, alive with echoes of labor, tragedy, and restless spirits who refuse to leave. Fort Morgan, standing sentinel at the mouth of Mobile Bay, is a site steeped in history and tragedy. Constructed in the early 19th century, this imposing coastal fortification was designed to protect the Gulf of Mexico from naval threats. But it has also witnessed some of the darkest chapters in American history. During the Civil War, Fort Morgan saw intense fighting and countless casualties, with soldiers on both sides meeting violent or untimely deaths within its thick stone walls. Even outside of wartime, life at the fort was harsh. Disease, accidents, and the relentless demands of military duty claimed the lives of many stationed there. Over time, these tragedies left an indelible mark, and today, Fort Morgan is not just a historical landmark but also a place of chilling paranormal activity, drawing ghost hunters and thrill seekers alike. Visitors to the fort often report an immediate sense of unease, even during daylight hours. The thick walls, narrow corridors, and echoing passageways create an atmosphere heavy with history and sorrow. As one walks along the ramparts or through the guard towers, it is easy to imagine the footsteps of soldiers from a bygone era still pacing these same stone floors. Many guests describe hearing these very footsteps, distinct, methodical, and sometimes accompanied by the faint jingle of uniform buttons or the muffled clink of a rifle strap. Yet when they turn to look, the corridors are empty, the air still, and the fort silent except for the wind whistling across the bay. Nighttime at Fort Morgan is when the hauntings become most pronounced. Visitors frequently report hearing the distant boom of cannon fire echoing across the fort, even though no artillery has been fired in decades. Some swear they have heard the murmur of orders being shouted, the clash of sabers, and the agonized cries of wounded men carried across the ramparts by the night air. These sounds are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that seem to follow visitors as they move through certain areas of the fort. Paranormal investigators suggest that these phenomena may be examples of residual energy replays of traumatic events imprinted upon the very stones of the fort, replaying moments of fear and chaos for anyone sensitive enough to perceive them. One of the most persistent legends at Fort Morgan involves a spectral soldier said to patrol the grounds endlessly. Witnesses describe seeing a figure in full uniform walking the ramparts or appearing near the old barracks. His movements are deliberate, almost ritualistic, as though he is searching for something or someone. Those who have seen him report a sense of profound sadness emanating from the apparition. a feeling that he is eternally mourning fallen comrades he could not save. In some accounts, this spectral soldier vanishes when approached, only to reappear moments later in a different location, maintaining his endless patrol. Locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike say he is a guardian of sorts, bound to the fort by duty and the memories of the horrors he witnessed. Other ghostly phenomena at Fort Morgan are less corporeal, but equally unsettling. Shadows flit across the walls of the fort, sometimes forming shapes that resemble soldiers in mid-march or crouching in defensive positions. Whispered conversations, often unintelligible but unmistakably human, echo through the empty halls. Visitors have described hearing what sounds like the low hum of a bugle or the creaking of a drawbridge that no longer exists. Some report that objects, such as lanterns or rifles, seem to move slightly, as if nudged by unseen hands. These subtle interactions, combined with the fort's oppressive atmosphere, create a sense that the past is not only present, but actively engaging with the living. The fort's coastal location seems to enhance its supernatural reputation. The sound of waves crashing against the shore, the cries of seagulls, and the rustle of wind through the fort's parapets can easily be mistaken for war, perhaps intermingled with phantom noises. Many visitors describe how the environment itself feels alive, as if the land and stone are saturated with centuries of sorrow and violence. At times, the wind carries whispers that sound like instructions being shouted, faint laughter, or even the screams of men in pain, leaving an indelible impression on anyone walking the ramparts at night. Eyewitness encounters are diverse but often share common themes. Some have reported seeing groups of shadowy figures gathered in the courtyard, reenacting a battle or preparing for inspection. Others have felt cold hands brush against their arms, or an oppressive weight pressing down on their shoulders as if the fort itself is aware of their presence. Even those who do not actively seek out paranormal activity often leave with a lingering sense of unease, as though the fort is quietly reminding them of the countless lives lost within its walls. Paranormal investigations at Fort Morgan have captured compelling evidence over the years. EVPs have recorded sounds that resemble orders being barked, the clatter of unseen footsteps, and cries of pain that defy natural explanation. Thermal imaging sometimes reveals unexplained heat signatures, suggesting the presence of entities moving through the stone corridors. Investigators consistently note that activity tends to concentrate near areas associated with historical death barracks, guard towers, and the ramparts overlooking the bay, supporting the belief that the fort is a repository of lingering spirits connected to tragic events. For many visitors, Fort Morgan is more than a historical site. It is a bridge between the past and the present, a place where history can be felt, seen, and sometimes even heard. Its stories of ghostly soldiers, spectral patrols, and disembodied cries create a haunting tableau that reminds all who enter that the fort's legacy is not confined to textbooks or plaques. The spirits of those who endured its harsh conditions, fought and fell on its grounds, and met tragic ends, still roam. Their presence, a chilling echo of centuries of conflict and sacrifice. Exploring Fort Morgan is an experience that leaves a lasting impression. The combination of history, architecture, and supernatural lore creates an environment that is both fascinating and unnerving. Visitors walk away with more than photographs or souvenirs. They carry the memories of a place where the past refuses to rest, where ghostly soldiers continue their endless patrols, and where the sound of cannon fire and marching feet is never far from reach. Fort Morgan stands as a sentinel, not only over the bay, but also over the restless spirits of Alabama's history. A haunting reminder that some echoes of the past can never truly fade. Gaineswood, the grand antebellum mansion in Demopolis, Alabama, stands as a striking testament to 19th century wealth and architectural grandeur. Built in the 1840s, its Greek Revival style and intricate detailing have long drawn visitors, historians, and architecture enthusiasts. Yet beneath the beauty of its soaring columns and ornate interiors lies a darker legacy, one steeped in the complex and tragic history of the antebellum South. The mansion was built and maintained through the labor of enslaved individuals, whose suffering is said to have left a lingering presence. Over the decades, numerous reports have emerged of unexplained phenomena, making Gaineswood not only a historic landmark, but also one of Alabama's most haunted estates. Visitors to Gaineswood often report an initial sense of unease upon stepping inside. The grand foyer, with its polished floors and sweeping staircase, seems to carry echoes from the past. Footsteps are frequently heard on the staircase when no one is present, the soft thuds echoing across the high ceilings. Some guests have reported feeling the unmistakable sensation of being watched, as though unseen eyes are tracking their movements. Even the sound of a chair scraping lightly across the floor has been noted, often in rooms that appear empty and untouched. One of the most persistent and chilling reports involves a shadowy woman in period dress. Witnesses describe her gliding silently along the hallways, her presence accompanied by an inexplicable coldness. The figure is often seen in the evenings, when the fading light casts long shadows through the mansion's expansive windows. Some say she pauses near doorways, as if observing those who wander the halls, before disappearing entirely. Others report hearing faint whispers, delicate yet urgent, as though the woman is trying to communicate across the centuries. Furniture moving on its own is another common phenomenon at Gaineswood. Visitors have recounted tables tipping slightly, chairs shifting, and doors creaking open or slamming shut without any apparent cause. In some cases, small objects, such as silverware or books, have been displaced, seemingly pushed or dropped by an invisible hand. These occurrences are often concentrated in rooms that were once inhabited by the mansion's original residents, suggesting that the spirits of the past remain attached to the spaces they once occupied. Cold drafts and sudden temperature drops are reported throughout the mansion, particularly in hallways and rooms with no exterior windows. Explorers have described stepping into a parlor or corridor and feeling an icy chill that seems to envelop them completely, even on warm days. Some claim that these cold spots are accompanied by a sense of presence and unseen force standing nearby, watching or guiding. These experiences often leave visitors with an unsettling awareness that Gaineswood is far more than a static relic. It is a place where the past can be felt, seen, and even touched. Sightings of figures dressed in 19th century clothing are not uncommon. Guests have reported fleeting glimpses of men in formal attire, women in flowing gowns, and children playing quietly in corners before vanishing. Some have seen these figures reflected in mirrors or polished surfaces, only to disappear when they turn to face them directly. Others recount shadows that move independently of light sources, taking shapes that mimic human forms and gestures. These visual encounters reinforce the mansion's reputation as a site where the line between history and the supernatural is blurred. Auditory phenomena further add to the mansion's eerie atmosphere. Voices, often faint and indistinct, are heard calling out names, issuing warnings, or murmuring conversations from rooms that should be empty. Footsteps, whispers, and the sound of soft laughter echo through the halls, creating an unsettling tapestry of sound that seems to emanate from both the present and the past. Many visitors describe the sensation of the house itself being alive, responding to their presence with subtle cue shifts in temperature, movements of air, or the faint resonance of unseen activity. The mansion's history deepens the haunting. Gaineswood was home to several generations of wealthy families, and the mansion was maintained with the labor of enslaved individuals whose lives were marked by hardship and oppression. Local lore suggests that the spirits of these individuals remain within the walls, unable or unwilling to leave. Some claim that the shadowy woman seen throughout the mansion may be one of these spirits, her presence a silent testament to the suffering endured within the home. Others suggest that the lingering figures of children and other family members represent echoes of lives intertwined with both privilege and tragedy. Explorers and paranormal investigators have documented various phenomena at Gaineswood using modern equipment. EMF detectors often spike unexpectedly in certain rooms. Thermal cameras reveal unexplained heat signatures, and audio devices capture faint whispers or knocks that cannot be attributed to structural settling. Many investigators note that activity tends to cluster around areas of historical significance within the mansion, such as the main staircase, parlors, and rooms associated with the original family. This suggests a connection between the mansion's history and the spirits that reportedly inhabit it, reinforcing the idea that Gaineswood is a site where time, memory, and the supernatural intersect. Despite its unsettling reputation, Gaineswood continues to draw visitors from across Alabama and beyond. Its combination of architectural beauty, historical significance, and paranormal lore creates a unique atmosphere that is both captivating and unnerving. Guests leave with memories not only of ornate columns and grand ballrooms, but also of footsteps that cannot be explained, glimpses of shadowy figures, and the cold, lingering presence of unseen entities. For those who are open to the supernatural, a visit to Gaineswood is more than a tour. It is an encounter with the echoes of the past, a haunting journey through a mansion where history and spirits coexist. The grand antebellum home of Gaineswood, with its sweeping staircase, intricate woodwork, and expansive halls, remains a living monument to Alabama's complex past. Its halls continue to whisper with the echoes of lives lived and lost, of joy and suffering, intertwined across centuries. The shadowy woman, the flickering figures, and the cold drafts serve as reminders that in some places, the past is never truly gone. At Gaineswood, history lingers, not just in brick and mortar, but in the unseen presences that walk its halls, making it one of Alabama's most profoundly haunted locations. The Bell House in Mobile, Alabama, stands as a striking example of Southern architecture, with its ornate facades, sprawling porches, and towering windows. Yet behind its elegant exterior lies a history steeped in mystery and tragedy, making it one of the most notorious haunted homes in the region. Built in the 19th century, the mansion was home to a prominent family whose fortunes and social standing masked dark secrets. Over the decades, rumors have persisted of untimely deaths, secretive family disputes, and hidden tragedies that seem to have left an imprint on the house itself. Today, the Bell House draws historians, paranormal enthusiasts, and curious visitors, many of whom report experiences that defy rational explanation. Visitors often describe an immediate sense of unease upon entering the house. The long corridors, high ceilings, and dimly lit rooms seem to amplify every creak and groan of the aged structure. Footsteps are frequently reported when no one else is present, and the soft whispering of voices seems to drift from unseen corners. Many guests have said that the atmosphere feels heavy, as though the house itself is saturated with the memories of past events. Even during the day, the air in the Bell House carries a weight that is difficult to explain, a tension that seems to watch and follow anyone who crosses its threshold. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is auditory in nature. Guests have heard disembodied voices whispering warnings or calling for help, their tones urgent and sorrowful. Some have reported screams echoing from upstairs rooms that appear empty, while others describe hearing soft conversations that suddenly stop when approached. Paranormal teams have captured recordings of these voices on audio equipment, often noting that they occur in areas associated with historical events or personal tragedies. The voices are described as being human, yet distinctly otherworldly, as though they carry a resonance from another time, echoing the emotions of those who once lived within the walls. Visual phenomena are equally unsettling. Many visitors have reported seeing shadowy figures peering from windows or appearing in mirrors, often disappearing when one attempts to focus on them. Some claim to have glimpsed figures dressed in period clothing, walking the halls or standing silently at the foot of staircases. Others have seen fleeting movements out of the corner of their eye shapes that vanish when looked at directly, leaving only an empty hallway in their place. These encounters create a pervasive sense that the house is alive, watching, and interacting with those inside in ways that are both subtle and unmistakably real. Physical sensations are another common aspect of the Bell House hauntings. Guests often report sudden cold spots that seem to follow them as they move through rooms and corridors. Some have described the feeling of being brushed by invisible hands, while others report an oppressive pressure on their shoulders or chests. These sensations are sometimes accompanied by auditory or visual phenomena, reinforcing the impression that the spirits inhabiting the house are aware of the living and capable of interaction. Even skeptics often admit that the experiences are difficult to explain and leave a lingering sense of dread. The house itself seems to play a role in the hauntings. Doors are known to slam shut without wind or structural cause, and floorboards creak under the weight of unseen footsteps. Visitors frequently describe lights flickering or shadows stretching unnaturally across walls and ceilings. Some have reported objects moving on their own, small items shifting from tables or shelves, as though nudged by unseen hands. These occurrences are particularly concentrated in rooms where historical records suggest personal tragedies occurred, hinting at a connection between the spirits and the events that shaped their lives. Paranormal investigators have extensively documented activity in the Bell House. Using EMF detectors, thermal cameras, and audio recording devices, they have captured spikes in energy, unexplained heat or cold signatures, and faint voices that cannot be attributed to natural sources. Investigators note that activity often escalates in the evening when the house is quiet and the shadows deepen. It is during these hours that most visitors report the strongest sense of presence, as if the spirits of the Bell House are most active when the living are few and the night is at its darkest. Local lore adds to the mansion's chilling reputation. Stories of family disputes, sudden deaths, and secretive events have circulated for generations. Some accounts suggest that members of the Bell family met tragic ends under mysterious circumstances, while others hint at unrecorded incidents of domestic strife. Whether or not these stories are fully factual, they contribute to the sense that the house is saturated with human emotion, grief, anger, fear that continues to linger long after those who created it have passed on. Visitors to the Bell House often leave with more than photographs or memories of its architectural grandeur. Many report feeling an indelible impression of the past pressing against the present, a sense that they have stepped into a space where time and emotion intermingle. Shadowy figures, unexplained sounds, and cold, oppressive air create an environment where history and the supernatural coexist, leaving even the most skeptical with a lingering sense of unease. It is this blend of historical intrigue and paranormal activity that makes the Bell House a compelling destination for those seeking both knowledge and a brush with the unknown. The Redmont Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama, stands as both a landmark of luxury and a repository of chilling stories. Built in the early 20th century, this historic hotel has welcomed countless guests over the decades, from dignitaries and celebrities to everyday travelers seeking comfort and elegance. Its grand lobby, ornate detailing, and polished halls showcase a bygone era of Southern hospitality. Yet beneath the refined surface, a darker side of the Redmont persists, one steeped in mystery, tragedy, and unexplained paranormal activity. Over the years, reports have surfaced of restless spirits, eerie phenomena, and encounters that have left visitors and staff alike questioning what lingers within the hotel's walls. Many guests report that the Redmont has a palpable presence, an atmosphere that seems aware of their every movement. Even during the day, when the hotel bustles with activity, some visitors feel sudden chills or the sensation of being watched. As evening falls and the corridors empty, these experiences intensify. Long hallways echo with sounds that have no apparent source, soft whispers, footsteps on polished floors, or the faint rustle of fabric. Some guests recount hearing the laughter of children in rooms that have long been unoccupied, or the quiet sighs of someone settling into a chair in the dimly lit lobby, only to find no one there when they turn. The most frequently reported apparition is that of a shadowy woman, seen wandering the halls late at night. Witnesses describe her as wearing clothing from a past era, her figure barely discernible in the flickering light. She often appears in hallways or near rooms that have been closed for decades. Those who attempt to approach her find that she vanishes as they get closer, leaving only a cold, lingering air where she once stood. Some accounts suggest she may be connected to a tragic story from the hotel's past, though details remain vague and lost to time. Whether she is a guardian, a mourner, or something more malevolent is left to the imagination of those who encounter her. Electrical anomalies are another hallmark of the Redmont's hauntings. Lights flicker in empty rooms, elevators operate seemingly on their own, and doors open and close without explanation. Guests have reported elevators halting between floors, and lights dimming or brightening in response to no apparent cause. Staff members often speak of these occurrences as routine yet unsettling, acknowledging that the hotel seems to have a life and will of its own. Paranormal investigators suggest that these phenomena may be tied to residual energy oaths of past residents, employees, and guests who left an indelible mark on the building. Auditory experiences further enhance the hotel's eerie reputation. Guests frequently report hearing murmured conversations in hallways, distant footsteps on stairs, or the faint hum of voices speaking across rooms. Some claim to hear the sound of a typewriter clicking in a long-abandoned office or a piano playing softly from a closed ballroom. These sounds often correspond to locations with historical significance within the hotel, hinting that the memories and energies of past occupants continue to resonate throughout the building. Visual anomalies are equally disturbing. In addition to the shadowy woman, witnesses have reported fleeting glimpses of figures dressed in early 20th century attire, often appearing in mirrors or windows. Some guests have seen silhouettes moving behind partially drawn curtains or reflected in polished floors, vanishing when directly observed. Paranormal teams have captured orbs, streaks of light, and other unexplained visual phenomena on cameras, particularly in hallways and rooms with known histories of previous occupancy or tragedy. These occurrences create a sense that the Redmont is a bridge between the present and the past, where history and haunting intersect. The hotel's history adds context to its supernatural reputation. Throughout its century-long existence, the Redmont has been witness to numerous personal tragedies, from sudden deaths to mysterious accidents, as well as the everyday struggles of countless employees and guests. Some theorists suggest that the accumulation of emotional energy, grief, fear, and sorrow has imprinted upon the building, creating an environment where the past is never truly gone. Visitors often describe a sense of walking through time itself, where the boundary between living experience and lingering memory becomes blurred. Many paranormal investigators consider the Redmont a hotspot for study. Using EMF detectors, thermal cameras, and audio recording devices, they have documented unexplained spikes in energy, cold spots, and faint voices that cannot be attributed to natural sources. Investigators note that activity is most concentrated during late-night hours, when the hotel is quiet and shadows deepen. Guests who venture into hallways or rooms at these hours often report the most intense encounters, from cold drafts to visual apparitions and auditory phenomena, suggesting that the spirits or residual energies are more active under the cover of darkness. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the Redmont Hotel continues to attract visitors. Some come seeking history, some seek a luxurious stay, and others are drawn by the allure of the paranormal. For those who experience the hotel's supernatural elements firsthand, the visit is unforgettable. Hallways echo with footsteps, doors move without hands, and a shadowy woman glides silently through the night. The hotel's grand architecture, combined with its mysterious activity, ensures that each visit leaves a lasting impression, blending beauty with unease. Ultimately, the Redmont Hotel stands as a testament to the interplay between history and haunting. Its walls, floors, and ceilings are not just physical structures, they are vessels for the emotions, tragedies, and experiences of generations past. Guests leave with more than memories of elegant decor and southern hospitality. They carry with them echoes of the hotel's lingering presence, glimpses of shadowy figures, and an awareness that some corners of history refuse to remain buried. At the Redmont, the past is never truly gone, and the spirits within continue to wander, observe, and interact with all who dare enter its storied halls. Old Cahaba, once the proud first capital of Alabama, now lies in ruins, a silent testament to ambition, tragedy, and the relentless passage of time. Founded in 1820 at the confluence of the Alabama and Cahaba rivers, Cahaba was designed to be a thriving political and economic hub. Its streets once bustled with lawmakers, merchants, families, and laborers, yet the town's promise was short. Floods, fires, and outbreaks of disease steadily decimated the population, leaving the city abandoned and crumbling. Today, Old Cahaba exists as a ghost town, where nature has reclaimed streets and structures, and where visitors often report that the echoes of its past refuse to remain silent. Walking through the overgrown streets of Old Cahaba, one is immediately struck by the juxtaposition of decay and history. Brick ruins, collapsed wooden buildings, and empty foundations mark where homes, businesses, and public buildings once stood. Despite the serenity of the landscape, many visitors describe an unnerving sensation, as though unseen eyes are watching. Ghostly footsteps are frequently reported, echoing along the abandoned streets, as if the town's former residents still traverse the avenues they once walked. Some claim these footsteps keep pace with their own, then fade suddenly, leaving nothing but an eerie silence. Children's laughter is another recurring phenomenon. Witnesses often hear the sounds of playful giggles or the patter of little feet across the grass-covered streets, yet no living children are present. In some cases, explorers describe seeing shadowy figures darting between ruined structures, small shapes that vanish when looked at directly. These fleeting glimpses are accompanied by a palpable sense of presence and energy that seems playful at first, but often turns somber, reminding visitors that these are echoes of lives long ended. The ruins themselves seem to harbor the weight of history. Collapsed homes, crumbling churches, and overgrown streets give the impression of a city frozen in time, a place where the past has refused to yield to the present. Some explorers report hearing mournful cries emanating from ruined buildings, low wails that seem to speak of grief, loss, or desperation. These sounds often occur in areas where historical records indicate the most suffering occurred: homes lost to fire, neighborhoods ravaged by disease, or public buildings abandoned after floods. The cries leave an indelible impression on visitors, who often describe a mixture of fear and sorrow upon leaving. Shadow figures are a particularly unsettling aspect of Old Cahaba's hauntings. These dark shapes are often seen moving through ruins, partially obscured by the trees or mist rising from the nearby river. They may appear as solitary figures pacing foundations, or as groups moving purposefully across abandoned streets. When approached, they vanish without a trace, leaving behind only the faint rustle of leaves or the whisper of the wind. Many visitors interpret these figures as the lingering souls of the town's former residents, individuals who experienced untimely deaths and whose spirits remain bound to the land. Paranormal investigators who have visited Old Cahaba frequently note a unique blend of phenomena. EVPs, or electronic voice phenomena, have been recorded throughout the ruins, capturing fragmented phrases, whispers, or cries that cannot be attributed to natural sources. Cold spots and sudden drops in temperature are also common, often coinciding with areas of reported apparitions or activity. Some investigators have reported feeling invisible hands brushing against their shoulders or a heavy presence pressing down upon them, an unsettling sensation that seems to echo the weight of the town's tragic history. Visitors often report that the wind carries more than the rustling of leaves. Soft whispers, unintelligible yet unmistakably human, drift across streets and through ruined doorways. The wind seems to animate the ruins, carrying fragments of memory and sound from one corner of the town to another. Some interpret these whispers as messages from the past, a way for the lost residents of Old Cahaba to communicate with those who wander their streets centuries later. Others feel it is a warning, a reminder that history and the spirits it leaves behind cannot be ignored. Despite its reputation as a haunted site, Old Cahaba remains a magnet for history enthusiasts, photographers, and paranormal seekers. Its empty streets, skeletal remains of buildings, and proximity to the river offer a hauntingly beautiful glimpse into the life and death of a once thriving community. Yet for many, it is the unexplainable phenomena, the footsteps, the laughter, the cries, and the shadowy figures that leave the deepest impression. Each visitor leaves carrying memories, not just of the town's architecture or scenic decay, but of the lingering presence of those who once walked the streets. Old Cahaba is more than a ghost town. It is a repository of memory, tragedy, and unresolved history. Fires, floods, and disease may have emptied its streets, but they could not erase the echoes of life that once filled them. Visitors leave with a mixture of awe and unease, aware that the past continues to coexist with the present. The spectral children playing in the ruins, the mournful cries, and the shadowy figures moving silently across the foundations are constant reminders that some places, though abandoned, are never truly empty. Walking through Old Cahaba, one senses the weight of history pressing from the crumbling walls and overgrown streets. Each step brings the realization that the town's story is far from over. Ghostly echoes of footsteps, laughter, and whispers intertwine with the wind, creating an atmosphere where the past is palpably alive. For those willing to explore its deserted avenues, Old Cahaba offers a haunting encounter with history itself, a chance to witness the spirits of a city that refuses to fade completely, reminding all who enter that even in abandonment, life and its The St. James Hotel in Selma, Alabama, is a striking relic of history. Its grand facade and stately architecture standing as a reminder of a bygone era. Established in the early 1800s, the hotel has witnessed more than 2 centuries of Southern history, including periods of prosperity, conflict, and tragedy. While it originally served as a luxurious destination for travelers and dignitaries, over the decades, the building has accumulated a reputation far darker than any guidebook could reveal. Stories of hauntings, unexplained phenomena, and ghostly apparitions have drawn the attention of both historians and paranormal investigators alike, making the St. James Hotel one of Alabama's most notorious haunted locations. Visitors frequently report strange occurrences as soon as they step inside the historic lobby. The polished floors and ornate seem timeless, yet many feel an immediate chill that cannot be explained by drafts or air conditioning. Guests describe sudden drops in temperature in certain hallways or rooms, often accompanied by the sensation of being watched. Some even claim to feel invisible presences brushing against them or following them through the halls, a subtle yet unmistakable warning that they are not alone. These sensations are so vivid that many visitors instinctively turn to see who or what is nearby, only to find the corridors empty and silent. Apparitions are among the most common reports at the St. James Hotel. Guests and employees alike have described seeing figures dressed in period clothing from the 19th century, gliding through hallways or appearing near doorways. Some are fleeting, visible only in the corner of the eye, while others linger long enough to create a sense of unease or even fear. One recurring apparition is that of a woman in a flowing dress, her face pale and indistinct, who seems to move with a deliberate grace. She has been seen ascending staircases, disappearing behind doors, or simply standing silently in a hallway before vanishing without a trace. Witnesses often describe the air around her as unnaturally cold, reinforcing the sense that the spirit is more than a mere shadow. Doors and furniture at the St. James Hotel also seem to have a life of their own. Guests report doors opening or closing without any human intervention, sometimes slowly and deliberately, other times with a forceful slam. Cabinet doors, drawers, and even windows have been observed moving on their own, creating startling sounds that echo throughout the hotel's empty rooms. These incidents are often accompanied by a feeling of tension or apprehension, as if the building itself is reacting to the presence of intruders or the memories of past events. Auditory phenomena further add to the hotel's haunted reputation. Disembodied whispers, soft murmurs, and even cries have been reported in empty rooms and corridors. Some visitors claim to hear conversations that make no sense, fragments of sentences or pleas that vanish as quickly as they are perceived. Paranormal investigators equipped with EVP recorders frequently capture faint voices, moans, and groans that seem to originate from nowhere, lending credibility to the claims of supernatural activity. These sounds are often described as urgent or mournful, suggesting lingering sorrow or unrest among the hotel's spectral inhabitants. Historical tragedies contribute to the St. James Hotel's haunted atmosphere. Over the centuries, the building has witnessed disease outbreaks, accidental deaths, and violent altercations. Stories speak of guests succumbing to illness in their rooms, employees injured or killed in workplace accidents, and disputes escalating to deadly encounters. Each of these events, whether well documented or preserved in rumor, seems to have left an imprint on the building, creating an environment rich with residual energy. Paranormal experts suggest that the accumulation of such intense emotions, grief, fear, and anger could explain why the hotel continues to host so many unexplained phenomena. Sightings are not limited to apparitions of women or men in period dress. Some guests have reported shadow figures that move independently of the building's layout, darting across hallways or appearing in doorways without any discernible origin. Others describe seeing vague, smoky forms that seem to shift and twist, often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature or a sense of being watched. These phenomena create an unsettling impression that the hotel is not simply haunted, but alive with the memories and energies of its past residents. Despite its eerie reputation, the St. James Hotel remains a destination for travelers, history enthusiasts, and paranormal seekers. Its blend of Southern elegance, historical significance, and supernatural intrigue makes it uniquely compelling. Visitors leave not only with memories of ornate architecture and historic charm, but also with experiences that are difficult to explain. The sounds of whispers, the sight of ghostly figures, and the inexplicable movements of doors and furniture leave lasting impressions, transforming a simple visit into an encounter with the unknown. Ultimately, the St. James Hotel embodies the intersection of history and the supernatural. Its walls, hallways, and rooms are repositories for centuries of human emotion, from joy and celebration to fear and tragedy. Ghostly apparitions, sudden chills, and mysterious sounds serve as reminders that the past remains close, that the events and people of earlier times continue to coexist with the present. Visitors who step inside the St. James Hotel do not merely enter a historic building, they walk among the echoes of countless lives, some still lingering, unable or unwilling to move on. The hotel's haunting presence ensures that each visit is unforgettable, leaving a lingering sense that history and the supernatural are inseparably intertwined. Demopolis Cemetery, nestled in the quiet town of Demopolis, Alabama, is a sprawling graveyard with a history as deep and layered as the centuries-old trees that tower over its weathered gravestones. Established in the early 1800s, the cemetery is the final resting place for generations of residents, from pioneering families to soldiers, merchants, and townsfolk whose lives shaped the surrounding area. Over the years, the cemetery has gained a reputation far beyond its historical significance, becoming known as one of Alabama's most haunted sites. Stories of apparitions, shadowy figures, and unexplained phenomena have drawn paranormal enthusiasts and curious visitors alike, eager to glimpse the lingering spirits said to roam its grounds. Walking through Demopolis Cemetery is like stepping into a living history book. Yet, the peaceful appearance of moss-covered gravestones and winding paths belies the chilling experiences reported by those who linger after dark. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Visitors describe seeing fleeting silhouettes moving between the gravestones, often appearing at the edge of their vision before vanishing when looked at directly. These shadows are sometimes seen pacing near older family plots or drifting along the tree-lined paths, giving the impression that the cemetery is alive with its past inhabitants. Some observers feel that these figures are aware of their presence, as if silently acknowledging intruders into their eternal domain. The soundscape of Demopolis Cemetery is equally unsettling. Many visitors recount hearing footsteps on the gravel and grassless paths, even when no one else is present. The crunch of boots or the soft scuff of shoes seems to follow them, sometimes accelerating or fading with no discernible source. Others report hearing whispers carried on the wind, fragments of conversation or urgent murmurs that vanish when approached. In some cases, explorers describe the sensation of voices calling their names, an unnerving experience that leaves a lingering sense of being watched or pursued by unseen presences. Ghostly apparitions are another frequent occurrence. Perhaps the most famous sightings involve women in white, often seen wandering the cemetery at dusk or under the dim light of a crescent moon. These figures are described as ethereal and mournful, gliding silently between the graves while emitting a subtle, chilling aura. Some visitors claim that these women appear near the graves of loved ones or along older, neglected sections of the cemetery, their presence evoking a sense of sorrow and lingering attachment to the mortal world. Witnesses often report that the apparitions disappear when approached, leaving behind only the faintest trace of cold air or a sudden stillness. In addition to visual phenomena, the cemetery is known for inexplicable movements of objects. Grave markers, small stones, and even floral tributes are sometimes found displaced or toppled without any apparent cause. Some visitors have reported feeling invisible touches on their arms or shoulders, brief yet unmistakable, as if the spirits of the deceased are making their presence known. Paranormal investigators using cameras, EMF detectors, and audio equipment have recorded unusual anomalies, including sudden temperature drops, strange shadows, and faint electronic voice phenomena (EVPs) that seem to echo faint cries or whispered words. Many of the hauntings at Demopolis Cemetery are thought to stem from the tragedies and hardships experienced by the individuals buried there. The cemetery contains graves of soldiers who perished in wars, victims of epidemics, and families that endured loss and hardship throughout the centuries. Paranormal experts suggest that the intense emotions of grief, fear, and mourning may have left an imprint on the grounds, creating residual energy that continues to manifest as ghostly sightings and unexplained sounds. Visitors often remark that the cemetery feels different from other historic sites, as if the collective memory of those interred remains present and active. The cemetery's misty atmosphere adds to its eerie reputation. On many mornings and evenings, fog drifts through the gravestones, creating shifting shadows and obscuring paths. Within this mist, apparitions often appear more distinct, their forms taking on a spectral clarity that disappears once the fog lifts. Some explorers have reported seeing figures moving with deliberate purpose, stopping to gaze at a particular grave or turning to glance at the observer before fading into the haze. These experiences suggest that the spirits are not random or aimless, but carry intentions or attachments from their lives in the mortal world. Despite the unsettling experiences reported, Demopolis Cemetery remains a destination for those interested in both history and the paranormal. Its old gravestones, towering trees, and winding paths provide a glimpse into the town's past, while the reports of ghostly activity create an atmosphere of suspense and mystery. Visitors are often left with a mixture of awe and unease, realizing that the cemetery is more than just a resting place for the dead. It is a living repository of memory, emotion, and lingering presence. Those who explore Demopolis Cemetery are frequently struck by the persistent sense that the spirits here are watching, waiting, or attempting to communicate. The footsteps, whispers, shadowy figures, and apparitions of women in white serve as reminders that some places, even in death, refuse to remain silent. Each visit offers an encounter with the unknown, a chance to witness the echoes of lives that have passed yet remain tethered to the earth. The cemetery is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine, where grief and memory manifest in spectral forms, and where the living can feel the enduring presence of the dead. For many, a walk through Demopolis Cemetery is not merely a historical visit, but a journey into a realm where the veil between the living and the dead is thin. The shadowy figures, whispering voices, and inexplicable movements of objects leave a lasting impression. A reminder that some souls remain bound to the places they loved or feared in life. Demopolis Cemetery is not simply a resting place for the deceased. It is a haunting ground, a place where the past is palpably alive, and where the whispers of the departed continue to echo across the mist-laden grounds. Fort Toulouse, located in Wetumpka, Alabama, stands as a solemn reminder of the region's turbulent history. Originally constructed in the early 18th century as a French fort to guard the Alabama frontier, it was a strategic outpost that saw conflict, trade, and occupation by soldiers and settlers alike. Today, the fort exists as a reconstructed historic site, yet beneath its carefully restored walls lies a deeper, darker story. Over the centuries, Fort Toulouse has accumulated a reputation as a site of paranormal activity, where echoes of past battles and restless spirits seem to linger among the ramparts and earthen mounds. Visitors and paranormal investigators alike have reported phenomena that suggest the fort is far from empty, that the spirits of soldiers and others who lived, fought, and died here still roam its grounds. Many visitors describe an immediate sense of unease upon entering Fort Toulouse, as if the weight of history presses down from every corner of the fort. The open parade grounds and reconstructed barracks, though peaceful in daylight, take on a more sinister aura after dusk. Witnesses frequently report hearing the unmistakable sound of soldiers marching in unison across the wooden floors or along the outer walls, even when the site is empty. The sound of boots striking the earth or boards resonates unnervingly, disappearing as suddenly as it began. In some cases, the echo of marching is accompanied by low murmurs, orders shouted in French or English, or indistinct voices conversing as if carrying out duties from centuries past. Apparitions are a common and chilling feature of Fort Toulouse's hauntings. Shadowy figures, dressed in period military uniforms, are often seen pacing the ramparts, inspecting the grounds, or appearing briefly near the reconstructed barracks. Some witnesses describe soldiers frozen in place, as if caught in a moment of attention or readiness, only to vanish when approached. Others report seeing the figures moving with deliberate purpose, crossing paths or standing guard before fading into the night air. Paranormal investigators suggest that these manifestations could be residual hauntings, energies left behind by those who once inhabited and defended the fort, replaying moments of their lives over and over. Sounds of battle are another phenomenon reported by visitors. Many recount hearing the clash of swords, the boom of cannons, and the sharp crack of muskets, even though the fort has been abandoned as a military site for centuries. These auditory experiences are sometimes accompanied by sudden cold spots, gusts of wind, or the sensation of being watched. Witnesses often describe the sounds as eerily realistic, capturing the chaos and urgency of a historical battle replaying within the confines of the fort. Some paranormal teams have captured these sounds on recording devices, lending further credence to the notion that Fort Toulouse retains the echoes of its violent past. Beyond soldiers and battle sounds, the fort is also associated with more subtle, yet equally unnerving, phenomena. Visitors have reported unexplained banging or thumping noises coming from within the reconstructed buildings, sometimes in patterns that mimic the cadence of marching or drilling exercises. Whispers and murmurs, often indecipherable, are frequently heard near the old powder magazine and barracks. Some report seeing misty shapes moving along the earthen mounds or among the trees surrounding the fort, their forms indistinct but undeniably human in shape. Occasionally, a fleeting hand or figure is glimpsed near doorways or windows, vanishing before any direct inspection can be made. The paranormal activity at Fort Toulouse is often tied to its violent and tragic history. Soldiers stationed at the fort faced not only the threat of battle with rival powers and native tribes, but also disease, harsh living conditions, and isolation. Many who died here were buried hastily, their lives cut short in service to colonial ambitions. Experts suggest that the intensity of fear, stress, and unresolved trauma left a strong imprint on the location, resulting in residual energy that continues to manifest for those who enter the grounds. Visitors often report that the fort feels alive in a way that is difficult to explain, as though history itself lingers and observes those who walk its paths. Some of the most persistent accounts involve encounters after dark, when shadows lengthen and the fort takes on a ghostly appearance under moonlight. Witnesses describe seeing soldiers silently marching across the parade grounds, their boots striking the earth in perfect unison. Others see figures standing at attention along the ramparts, or walking along the wooden walkways before fading into darkness. These nocturnal manifestations are often accompanied by the sounds of whispered commands, hurried footsteps, or the clash of weapons, an immersive experience that transports visitors back to the fort's earliest days. Despite its haunting reputation, Fort Toulouse remains an important historical and cultural site. Visitors are drawn not only to its well-preserved structures and educational exhibits, but also to the chilling possibility of encountering the unexplained. Paranormal teams frequently return to investigate, documenting temperature anomalies, EVPs, and visual phenomena. For those willing to explore the site, the combination of history and haunting provides a deeply memorable experience, blending the educational with the eerie. Ultimately, Fort Toulouse serves as a bridge between the past and the present, where history and the supernatural coexist. Shadowy figures, the sounds of battle, and mysterious whispers remind visitors that the land remembers its inhabitants and their struggles. Walking along the ramparts, standing in the old barracks, or exploring the parade grounds, one cannot help but feel the presence of those who came before. Fort Toulouse is more than a reconstructed fort. It is a living memory, a place where echoes of colonial ambition, warfare, and tragedy continue to resonate, ensuring that the spirits of the past are never truly gone. The old Cahaba Jail, situated within the remnants of Alabama's long-abandoned first state capital, is a chilling testament to a grim past. Built in the early 1800s, the jail once housed criminals, debtors, and the unfortunate souls caught in the rigid justice system of the time. Constructed of heavy stone and reinforced with iron bars, the building was designed more for containment than comfort. Its thick walls, dark corridors, and narrow cells created an oppressive atmosphere, one that has persisted long after the last prisoner left. Today, the jail stands as a ruin, its history whispered among locals and visitors who report an unnerving presence that refuses to rest. Visitors to the old Cahaba Jail often describe a sense of foreboding as soon as they approach the crumbling structure. Even in daylight, the air around the jail feels heavy, as if charged with the lingering energy of decades of suffering. The building itself seems to exude an oppressive silence, broken only by the wind rustling through cracks in the walls or the occasional creak of loose floorboards. Many explorers report that this silence can be deceptive, masking sudden, inexplicable sounds that send shivers down the spine. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the sound of chains dragging across the floors. Even though no metal links remain free to move, visitors have described hearing the unmistakable clinking and scraping of iron, as if an invisible prisoner were being led from one cell to another. These sounds often occur without warning, echoing unnaturally through the narrow hallways and amplifying the sense that the jail is still occupied by its former inmates. Some explorers have tried to track the source, only to find empty cells and silent corridors, leaving them questioning what or who is creating the noise. Disembodied moans are another common experience. Witnesses report hearing low, mournful cries that seem to come from the cells themselves. The sounds often carry a sense of desperation, as though the prisoners are pleading for release or relief from unbearable conditions. Some describe the moans rising and falling, moving from cell to cell, creating a haunting chorus that seems almost human in its emotion. Paranormal investigators, using recording equipment, have captured these sounds on tape, along with faint whispers that appear to beg for freedom, lending credibility to the claims of supernatural activity. Shadowy figures are frequently observed in and around the jail. Visitors have reported seeing dark shapes peering through barred windows, lingering in corners, or pacing along the narrow corridors. These figures are often described as indistinct but humanoid, their forms flickering or shifting as if unwilling to fully manifest. In some cases, witnesses have claimed that the shadows appear to follow them, darting along walls or reappearing in different areas of the jail. The presence of these figures creates an intense feeling of unease, as if the spirits are aware of intruders and are responding to their presence. Physical sensations are also commonly reported within the jail. Some visitors claim to have been pushed lightly from behind, as if guided or warned by an unseen hand. Others describe the sensation of a cold hand resting on their shoulders, a brief but unmistakable touch that leaves them frozen with fear. These experiences often occur near the oldest cells or in areas where the walls are thickest, suggesting a connection to the history of suffering endured by those once confined. Paranormal teams have noted that these sensations often accompany other phenomena, such as temperature drops, sudden gusts of wind, or flickering lights, creating a multisensory experience of the haunting. The architecture of the jail itself contributes to its eerie atmosphere. Narrow hallways, low ceilings, and heavy doors with iron bars create a labyrinthine layout that can disorient even the most seasoned explorer. Echoes bounce unpredictably through the stone corridors, amplifying even the faintest sound and making footsteps or whispers seem closer than they are. Visitors often report feeling as though the building itself is alive, watching and reacting to every movement. Even areas that appear safe by daylight can feel threatening once darkness falls, heightening the sense of vulnerability and suspense. Historical tragedies provide context for the jail's lingering presence. Records and local lore suggest that prisoners were often subjected to harsh treatment, left in overcrowded and unsanitary conditions, and occasionally forgotten entirely. Disease, neglect, and despair were constant companions for those confined within its walls. Experts in paranormal phenomena suggest that the intense emotions associated with suffering and injustice can leave an imprint on a location, resulting in residual energy that continues to manifest for decades or even centuries. At the Old Cahaba Jail, this energy appears to be particularly strong, as if the spirits of former inmates remain tethered to the place of their imprisonment. The jail's haunting reputation has drawn historians, ghost hunters, and thrill-seekers alike. Visitors are cautioned to respect the site, not only because of its fragile ruins, but also because of the intense energy that purportedly lingers within. Those who explore the Old Cahaba Jail often leave with a mixture of awe and fear, recognizing that the building is more than a historical artifact. It is a threshold between the living and the restless dead. Ultimately, the Old Cahaba Jail is a place where history and the supernatural intersect. Chains, moans, shadowy figures, and inexplicable touches serve as reminders that the suffering endured within these walls has left a lasting mark. Visitors who step inside are not simply observing history. They are walking among echoes of despair, encountering the spirits of those who may never have found peace. In its decaying corridors and empty cells, the past continues to speak, offering chilling testimony to a time of cruelty, confinement, and unresolved anguish that refuses to fade into silence. Gaineswood Cemetery, nestled near the historic Gaineswood Mansion in Demopolis, Alabama, is a place where history and haunting seem to merge. Though the cemetery has long served as the final resting place for both the plantation's residents and those who were enslaved, the spirits who linger here are far from at rest. Visitors and paranormal investigators alike have reported a wide range of supernatural phenomena, from fleeting shadows to disembodied whispers, giving the grounds an eerie atmosphere that persists long after sunset. The cemetery's layout is simple, yet haunting. Rows of weathered gravestones, some cracked or toppled, stretch across overgrown pathways. Moss creeps along the bases of stones, and twisted roots push through the earth as if the land itself remembers the people buried here. Visitors often describe an immediate chill upon entering the cemetery, a coldness that seems to cling to the skin and settle into the bones. Even on warm days, the air feels unnaturally frigid in certain areas, and some report sudden drops in temperature as they approach particular grave sites, especially those of enslaved individuals whose lives ended in suffering. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported manifestations at Gaineswood Cemetery. Visitors frequently see fleeting shapes moving among the gravestones, sometimes resembling people in 19th century clothing. These apparitions often appear and vanish within seconds, leaving only the impression of movement in the corner of one's eye. Some witnesses describe figures standing silently near a grave, staring toward the intruder before dissolving into thin air. Others have reported seeing groups of shadowy figures drifting down the pathways, as though following old routines or performing tasks from their lives long past. Sounds add another layer of haunting to the cemetery. Whispered voices, unintelligible yet distinctly human, have been reported echoing through the grounds. Occasionally, these whispers are said to call out names, perhaps of those long departed, or even visitors themselves, creating an unsettling sense of recognition and intimacy. Soft crying is another commonly cited auditory phenomenon, a mournful, almost childlike sob that seems to rise from the earth itself. Many visitors describe this crying as sorrowful but not aggressive, more like the lingering lament of those who never found peace. Physical sensations are equally unnerving. Some explorers report the feeling of unseen fingers brushing along their skin or the light pressure of a hand on their shoulder. These touches are often fleeting but unmistakable, creating a heightened sense of vulnerability as one walks the narrow, uneven paths between gravestones. Paranormal investigators frequently document cold spots, sudden gusts of wind, and inexplicable breezes that seem to follow them through the cemetery, intensifying the sense that the grounds themselves are alive with lingering spirits. The history of Gaineswood Cemetery provides context for its supernatural activity. Those buried here endured extreme hardship, especially the enslaved individuals whose lives were marked by labor, oppression, and limited freedom. The emotional weight of suffering and unfulfilled lives is said to leave residual energy, a kind of spiritual imprint that persists long after the body has decayed. Visitors often sense this presence as a lingering tension, a heaviness that underscores the cemetery's quiet beauty with an invisible but palpable sadness. Some of the most chilling encounters occur near graves that are overgrown or partially hidden. Witnesses report seeing apparitions crouching near these tombstones, appearing to tend to them or simply waiting in silence. Shadowy figures have also been observed moving along tree lines or disappearing behind clusters of shrubs, creating a sense of being watched even in areas thought to be isolated. The combination of visual phenomena, sudden sounds, and physical sensations contributes to an immersive, almost theatrical haunting that leaves a lasting impression. Even daytime visitors sometimes experience paranormal activity. Flickers of movement, cold drafts, and inexplicable sounds are reported even when the sun is high and the cemetery seems calm. At night, however, the haunting intensifies. Shadows stretch unnaturally under moonlight, whispers carry further through the still air, and the mournful cries of the unseen seem closer, as though urging visitors to leave or perhaps to bear witness. Many who explore Gaineswood Cemetery after dark describe a sense of walking among the dead, feeling their presence in a way that is both humbling and frightening. Paranormal investigations at Gaineswood Cemetery often use cameras, audio recorders, and EMF detectors. Investigators frequently capture EVP's electronic voice, phenomena featuring faint voices or cries, sometimes responding to questions or repeating names. Visual anomalies are also common on cameras, including shadow figures, unexplained orbs of light, and mist-like shapes moving through gravestones. Even when no physical evidence is captured, visitors often leave with an undeniable sense that they have encountered something otherworldly, an interaction that transcends rational explanation. In addition to spectral sightings and sounds, the emotional resonance of the cemetery is palpable. Many visitors describe feeling overwhelming sorrow, a weight of grief that seems to seep from the ground and wrap around them. Others experience fleeting moments of hope or tenderness, particularly near graves of children or family members, suggesting that some spirits may retain fragments of their humanity. The interplay of fear, melancholy, and historical awareness makes Gaineswood Cemetery a uniquely evocative haunted site. Ultimately, Gaineswood Cemetery is a place where history and the supernatural converge. Shadowy figures, whispered voices, sudden cold spots, and fleeting touches remind visitors that the lives of those buried here continue to resonate through time. The cemetery is more than a resting place. It's a living testament to suffering, endurance, and unresolved energy. Walking among the gravestones, one cannot help but feel the presence of the past, as if the spirits of the enslaved and the plantation residents watch, guide, or simply bear witness. Gaineswood Cemetery stands as a haunting reminder that history is never truly silent, and that some souls may never leave the places they once called home. The Dexter Avenue King Memorial Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, stands as a beacon of history, faith, and social progress. Yet beneath its celebrated facade lies a deeper, more unsettling presence. Known worldwide for its pivotal role in the civil rights movement, the church witnessed moments of triumph, hope, and courage, but also fear, sorrow, and confrontation. Many who visit the church today claim that its walls hold echoes of these intense emotions, leaving a lingering sense that the past has never truly departed. Visitors stepping inside often describe an immediate weight to the atmosphere, a subtle tension that seems to cling to the air. Even when the sanctuary is empty, some report hearing footsteps along the wooden aisles, slow and deliberate, as though someone unseen is pacing back and forth. These footsteps are said to occur at irregular intervals, sometimes startling enough to make visitors spin around in search of their source, only to find the pews empty and the floors silent. Shadowy figures are another recurring phenomenon at Dexter Avenue. Witnesses have reported vague, human-shaped silhouettes near the pulpit, standing as though listening, waiting, or performing unseen rituals. Some figures appear in the middle of the sanctuary, motionless yet distinctly present, disappearing only when approached. These apparitions are often described as fleeting, glimpsed out of the corner of one's eye, yet leaving a chilling impression that someone or something is observing from beyond the physical plane. The auditory experiences at the church are particularly unsettling. Many visitors have reported hearing faint whispers, sometimes resembling fragments of sermons or prayers. Words may be indecipherable, yet the tone conveys urgency, sorrow, or reverence. Others describe hearing the soft, unmistakable sound of sobbing, echoing through empty rooms, believed to be remnants of grief from congregants, civil rights activists, or church members who endured threats and violence during the 1950s and 1960s. Paranormal investigators, using EVP equipment, have captured faint voices that seem to respond to questions or repeat phrases, lending credence to claims of lingering spiritual energy within the church. Some encounters are physical in nature. Visitors have reported feeling sudden drops in temperature in specific areas, particularly near the pulpit or along the aisles. Cold spots are often accompanied by a sensation of being watched, or even the fleeting brush of a hand along one's arm. These experiences, though subtle, create an intense awareness of the unseen presence within the sanctuary, enhancing the emotional impact of the building's storied past. The church's architecture and historical layout contribute to the haunting sensations. Its high ceilings, narrow aisles, and echoing wooden floors amplify sounds, making whispers, footsteps, and creaks resonate throughout the space. Even in the absence of human activity, the acoustics can turn small disturbances into an overwhelming experience, creating the impression of multiple presences moving simultaneously. Many visitors report that the sanctuary feels alive in a way that is both awe-inspiring and unnerving, as if the building itself holds the memories of those who have passed through its doors. Historical context offers insight into why the church may be so saturated with residual energy. Dexter Avenue Baptist Church served as the spiritual home of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during the Montgomery bus boycott, and countless congregants and activists faced threats, harassment, and violence for their efforts in the civil rights movement. The intensity of these experiences, fear, hope, anguish, and determination, may have left a kind of energetic imprint on the church, one that continues to manifest for those sensitive to its presence. Many experts in paranormal activity suggest that locations with significant emotional or historical weight are more likely to retain such residual energy, resulting in ghostly phenomena that persist for decades. Visitors often describe a mix of emotions when exploring Dexter Avenue. Awe, reverence, and inspiration are intertwined with unease and tension, creating a layered experience that is both spiritual and unsettling. Some report feeling an inexplicable connection to past congregants, as though they are walking alongside spirits who witnessed pivotal moments in history. Others feel a distinct sense of being observed, as if the church itself is acknowledging their presence and the weight of the events that transpired within its walls. Paranormal investigations have added further evidence of the church's haunting. Cameras and audio equipment have captured shadowy movements along the aisles, objects subtly shifting, and faint EVPs of murmured prayers or whispered phrases. Investigators note that these phenomena often occur in areas associated with historic significance, such as the pulpit where Dr. King delivered sermons, or in rooms where activists may have met in secret. These experiences suggest that the echoes of history are not merely metaphorical, they continue to manifest in tangible, perceptible ways. Even outside of active investigation, visitors often leave the church with a lingering impression that something unseen remains. The faint sounds, fleeting shadows, and sudden chills serve as reminders that the church is more than a historical site. It is a vessel for the emotions, struggles, and triumphs of those who walked its halls before. The line between past and present feels unusually thin, offering a unique, almost sacred, connection to history, while also evoking an undeniable sense of the paranormal. Ultimately, Dexter Avenue King Memorial Baptist Church stands as a testament to resilience, courage, and the human spirit. Yet, it is equally a space where the past refuses to be silent. Ghostly footsteps, whispered prayers, shadowy figures, and inexplicable chills remind visitors that history is not merely recorded in books or photographs, it is imprinted in the very walls of places that witnessed profound human struggle. To walk the aisles of this church is to step into both history and haunting, to sense the lives, hopes, and fears of those who shaped the movement and, in their lingering presence, continue to leave an indelible mark on the living. Fort Blount, located near Blountsville, Alabama, is an abandoned military fort whose crumbling walls and overgrown grounds conceal a dark and haunting history. Established in the early 1800s, the fort once served as a strategic military outpost during times of conflict, including skirmishes with Native American tribes and later periods of regional unrest. Though centuries have passed, the echoes of violence, fear, and despair linger among the ruins, creating an environment that many visitors describe as thick with unease and unshakable tension. The first impression upon approaching Fort Blount is one of isolation. The once proud stone and timber structures are now reduced to skeletal remains, with walls partially collapsed and wooden beams splintered. Vegetation grows unchecked, weaving through the ruins as if reclaiming the land from human hands. Even in daylight, the site feels heavy, as though the fort itself bears the memory of the lives lost within its walls. Visitors often report an immediate sense of foreboding upon entering the grounds, as if invisible eyes are watching their every step. One of the most frequently reported phenomena is the sound of phantom cannon fire. Even on clear, quiet days, explorers describe hearing the deep, reverberating boom of artillery echoing across the landscape. These sounds are often accompanied by the imagined cracking of muskets or the clatter of metal against stone, creating the impression of an active battle long after the fort was abandoned. The auditory hallucinations, or perhaps actual residual echoes of the past, are particularly pronounced near the main ramparts, where cannons would once have been stationed to defend the fort. In addition to these sounds, the presence of ghostly soldiers is a common experience for visitors. Shadow figures are frequently seen moving along the ramparts or within the remains of the barracks, dressed in period-appropriate uniforms. These apparitions often appear partially translucent, their forms flickering as though caught between this world and another. Some explorers describe these figures marching in formation, vanishing when approached, or standing silently at attention before fading away. The encounters are unnerving, as the soldiers' expressions, discernible or fan, appear tense or anguished, hinting at the trauma they endured in life. The interior of the fort holds its own share of unsettling experiences. The crumbling barracks, once filled with sleeping soldiers, now echo with empty space and ghostly sounds. Visitors have reported hearing footsteps pacing across floorboards that no longer exist, the subtle scraping of boots against debris, and occasional low murmurs resembling whispered orders. In certain rooms, sudden temperature drops occur without explanation, leaving explorers shivering despite warm air outside. Many describe a tangible heaviness pressing upon their chests, as if the fort itself is aware of their intrusion. Screams and cries are another persistent element of Fort Blount's haunting. Some claim to hear anguished wails, sometimes sharp and sudden, other times drawn out and mournful. These sounds are often linked to specific locations, such as the remains of the officers' quarters or the powder magazine, leading visitors to speculate that they may represent soldiers dying in battle or prisoners of war confined within the fort. Paranormal teams using electronic voice phenomenon (EVP) recorders have captured faint, unintelligible shouts that seem to respond to questions or repeat in strange patterns, suggesting a lingering presence trapped in the echoes of history. The surrounding landscape amplifies the fort's eerie atmosphere. Wind rustles through the overgrown grass and trees, carrying faint, unintelligible whispers that some interpret as voices of the long departed. Shadows cast by the remaining walls and trees often appear to shift independently of natural light, creating fleeting figures in the corner of one's eye. Visitors frequently describe the sensation of being followed or observed, a feeling that persists even when they believe they are alone. The combination of visual, auditory, and physical phenomena leaves many with an undeniable sense that Fort Blount is more than a ruin. It is a repository of memory, grief, and unresolved energy. Explorers often note that the fort's haunting presence is not aggressive but profoundly unsettling. The spirits seem bound to the site by the intensity of their experiences, replaying moments of fear, duty, and suffering. Those who enter are acutely aware of this history, whether through direct sightings of shadowy figures, sudden chills, or the spectral sounds of war that ripple through the empty structures. The site leaves a lingering impression, compelling visitors to acknowledge the lives and struggles of those who once inhabited the fort. At night, Fort Blount takes on an even more sinister character. Darkness deepens shadows and heightens every sound. The distant boom of phantom artillery, the scraping of invisible boots, and the occasional wail carry across the grounds, more vivid and terrifying than in daylight. Many paranormal enthusiasts and ghost hunters choose to explore after sunset, hoping to capture evidence of the lingering spirits. Yet even the bravest admit to feeling a palpable sense of dread, as though the fort is alive with unseen watchers. In addition to ghostly sounds and sightings, the fort's architecture contributes to the supernatural experience. The high walls, crumbling wooden floors, and narrow hallways create natural acoustics that carry whispers and footsteps unnaturally far, making the ruins seem more populated than they are. Shadows cast by the remains of the fort often appear to move independently of natural light, giving the impression of figures lurking in corners or between broken walls. These environmental factors combine with the site's tragic history to create a deeply immersive haunting. Ultimately, Fort Blount is a place where history and the paranormal converge. Shadowy soldiers, phantom cannon fire, anguished cries, and sudden chills remind visitors that the past is never truly gone. Walking among the ruins is a journey into both history and haunting, a step into the lives of those who lived, fought, and died within the fort's walls. For those who venture here, Fort Blount is more than an abandoned military outpost. It is a lingering echo of human struggle, forever etched into the land and into the spirits that remain. Bryce Hospital in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, stands as a chilling relic of psychiatric care from a darker era. Founded in the mid-19th century, it was once touted as a progressive institution for treating mental illness. Yet over time, overcrowding, mistreatment, and outdated practices transformed the facility into a place of despair. Even decades after its doors closed, the hospital's lingering energy evokes fear and sorrow, drawing paranormal investigators, thrill seekers, and those curious about its haunted reputation. Visitors to Bryce Hospital often describe an overwhelming sense of unease the moment they step onto the grounds. The sprawling complex, with its Gothic architecture, long corridors, and high ceilings, exudes a quiet menace. Rusted gates and crumbling brickwork frame the institution, setting the stage for an experience that many describe as simultaneously fascinating and terrifying. The stillness of the abandoned campus is deceptive, for it is within the quiet that the hospital's dark past seems most alive. The most common experiences reported by visitors are auditory. Footsteps echo along empty hallways, often following guests even when no one else is present. Some hear the shuffle of shoes, the soft tapping of fingers on walls, or the unmistakable squeak of doors opening and closing. Paranormal investigators using audio recording devices frequently capture disembodied voices, ranging from faint whispers to anguished cries. Many of these EVPs seem to respond to questions or repeat certain words, as if the spirits are attempting to communicate with the living. The sounds are not uniform. Some are soft and sorrowful, while others are sharp and frantic, reflecting the hospital's history of emotional turmoil. Sightings of shadowy figures are another hallmark of Bryce Hospital. Guests report glimpsing vague human shapes at the end of corridors, moving slowly and deliberately, often vanishing when approached. Some witnesses describe figures dressed in hospital gowns, wandering the halls as though still caught in the routines of treatment. Others have seen apparitions resembling staff members, sometimes hovering near rooms or staircases, their expressions obscured but filled with tension. These visions often appear in areas historically associated with intense suffering, such as patient wards, therapy rooms, and seclusion chambers. The hospital's physical environment contributes to the intensity of these paranormal experiences. Sudden cold spots are frequently reported, with temperatures dropping sharply in specific rooms or hallways without explanation. Some visitors describe feeling an oppressive weight pressing down on them, a sensation of invisible hands or presence making their movements sluggish and their hearts race. Others have reported being touched or brushed by unseen forces, sometimes on the shoulder or back, leaving them startled and unnerved. The combination of chilling sensations, unexplained noises, and shadowy movements creates an atmosphere of palpable tension throughout the building. Bryce Hospital's history provides context for these haunting phenomena. Overcrowding and inadequate care were common, with patients often left unattended for long periods. Practices that would now be considered abusive, such as physical restraints, isolation, and experimental treatments, were widespread. Many patients lived and died within the hospital's walls, their suffering intense and, at times, prolonged. Paranormal experts suggest that locations marked by strong emotions, fear, pain, grief, far more likely to retain energy, leaving behind imprints that manifest as ghostly activity. Bryce Hospital, with its long history of human anguish, seems to exemplify this phenomenon. Visitors frequently recount experiences that go beyond auditory or visual phenomena. Some have reported objects moving on their own, chairs sliding across floors, or doors slamming shut with no visible cause. Others have captured inexplicable shadows on camera, only to find nothing present when reviewing the footage. There are accounts of visitors feeling a sudden urge to flee certain areas, an instinctual reaction to an invisible presence that they cannot rationally explain. For many, the hospital is not merely haunted, it feels actively aware of their presence, as though the building itself carries the consciousness of its former inhabitants. The hospital's seclusion amplifies the eerie atmosphere. Overgrown grounds, broken windows, and neglected pathways create a sense of abandonment that seems to stretch into eternity. The architectural layout, with long, narrow corridors and interconnected wards, allows sounds to carry unnaturally far, making distant footsteps or voices appear close and immediate. Shadows cast by decayed structures can give the impression of movement, and the echoing halls often distort sounds, creating auditory illusions that can terrify even seasoned paranormal investigators. Despite its reputation, Bryce Hospital draws a mix of people ghost hunters hoping to document evidence, history enthusiasts intrigued by its past, and thrill seekers eager to experience its fear firsthand. Many leave with compelling stories. Footsteps in empty hallways, cold chills in formerly occupied rooms, fleeting shadow figures, and EVPs of whispered voices. Some report a lingering emotional weight, a sense of sorrow that follows them even after exiting the building. Ultimately, Bryce Hospital is more than just an abandoned psychiatric facility. It is a place where the echoes of past suffering remain tangible. The shadowy figures, disembodied voices, cold spots, and inexplicable movements serve as reminders that the trauma endured within its walls has not entirely dissipated. Walking through Bryce Hospital is an immersion into both history and haunting, a confrontation with the lingering spirits of those who lived, suffered, and died there. For visitors, the experience is chilling, haunting, and unforgettable, a stark reminder that some places carry the memories of pain long after the living have gone. Oakwood Cemetery in Birmingham, Alabama, is one of the city's oldest and most haunted burial grounds. Established in the 19th century, its sprawling grounds are home to countless graves, many of which belong to families whose names have long faded from public memory. Over the decades, the cemetery has earned a reputation for eerie activity, drawing paranormal investigators, thrill seekers, and curious visitors hoping to catch a glimpse of its spectral residents. The atmosphere of Oakwood Cemetery is heavy, its silence broken only by the occasional whisper of wind through ancient trees. Yet many who enter feel that the air itself is alive with unseen presences. Visitors to Oakwood Cemetery often speak first of the visual phenomena they encounter. Misty, indistinct figures are frequently seen gliding between the headstones, appearing and disappearing without warning. These apparitions are sometimes human-shaped, but blurred, as if caught between the physical world and another realm. Witnesses describe seeing figures pausing as though observing them, only to vanish when approached. Some have reported fleeting glimpses of people in period clothing, reminiscent of the 19th and early 20th centuries, walking slowly among the graves, their steps silent on the cracked and uneven paths. Whispers are another common experience at Oakwood Cemetery. Many visitors report hearing voices that seem to emanate from nowhere, soft and urgent, calling out names or murmuring unintelligible words. Some of these whispers are captured during paranormal investigations using electronic voice phenomenon (EVP) recorders. Recordings reveal faint cries and pleading voices, often repeated in patterns, leaving a chilling impression that the cemetery is inhabited by restless spirits attempting to communicate. These auditory experiences are especially pronounced at night, when the quiet amplifies every sound and the shadows seem to take on a life of their own. Shadow figures are yet another element of Oakwood Cemetery's haunted reputation. Explorers frequently describe seeing dark shapes moving at the edges of their vision, always just out of clear sight. These shadows often seem to follow visitors as they navigate the grounds, vanishing when confronted directly. Some individuals report feeling an oppressive presence behind them, a sensation that someone or something is observing their every move. On occasion, visitors have felt the sudden touch of cold, invisible hands on their shoulders, a brief but terrifying reminder that the cemetery is not empty. The cemetery's physical layout contributes to its eerie atmosphere. Narrow pathways wind between tightly packed headstones, some cracked and toppled by time. Ancient oak and maple trees cast long shadows that shift unnaturally with the moonlight, creating illusions of movement. Fog frequently drifts across the grounds, adding an otherworldly quality to the already unsettling environment. The combination of overgrown foliage, decaying monuments, and uneven terrain gives visitors the impression that the cemetery is a place outside of ordinary time, where past and present converge. Several specific areas of Oakwood Cemetery are considered particularly active. Sections dating back to the 1800s are often the sites of the most frequent sightings and unexplained sounds. Old family mausoleums, with their dark interior chambers, seem to attract intense paranormal energy, and some explorers have captured shadowy figures inside these structures on camera. Visitors have reported that certain graves seem to draw attention unexplained cold spots, a sense of being watched, or EVPs captured nearby, suggest that some spirits remain especially tied to the sites where they were laid to rest. The history of Oakwood Cemetery provides context for its haunting. Many of those buried here lived through tumultuous periods in Birmingham's development, enduring epidemics, violence, and personal tragedy. The combination of grief, suffering, and untimely death appears to have left an imprint on the grounds, according to paranormal theories. Each headstone, each monument, may act as a marker for residual energy, preserving echoes of the lives and emotions of those long deceased. At night, the cemetery's haunted qualities intensify. Darkness obscures familiar landmarks, making the path between graves seem endless. The wind through the trees can resemble hushed voices, and even the faint rustle of animals becomes unnervingly human. Visitors have reported the sensation of being followed, the feeling of cold hands brushing against them, and glimpses of moving figures in the shadows. Some have experienced sudden, inexplicable chills, as if passing through a wall of frozen air, leaving them breathless and uneasy. Paranormal investigators who frequent Oakwood Cemetery often use a combination of photography, EVP recording, and night vision equipment to document activity. Many have captured anomalies, orbs of light hovering near gravestones, shadow figures moving in ways that defy physics, and audio recordings of faint cries or whispered names. While skeptics attribute some of these phenomena to natural causes and animals, or optical illusions, numerous first-hand accounts and recorded evidence leave little doubt for those who have experienced the cemetery's haunting firsthand. Despite the fear and unease, Oakwood Cemetery also holds a solemn beauty. Ancient trees, historic monuments, and the sense of continuity between past and present give the grounds a contemplative atmosphere. However, the beauty is inextricably linked to the supernatural, making every visit a delicate balance between awe and apprehension. Visitors leave with a sense that they have glimpsed something beyond the ordinary, a fleeting connection with those who once walked the earth and now linger in another realm. In the end, Oakwood Cemetery is more than a burial ground. It is a repository of memories, grief, and lingering spirits. The misty figures, whispers, shadowy forms, and sudden chills serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. Each visit offers a chance to witness the unresolved echoes of lives long departed, a haunting encounter that is as unsettling as it is compelling. For those who venture into its quiet paths and ancient gravestones, Oakwood Cemetery is a place where history and the supernatural meet, leaving an indelible mark on all who walk its haunted grounds. The Rucker Mansion in Huntsville, Alabama, is a sprawling, abandoned estate that has long captivated both historians and thrill-seekers. With its reputation for paranormal activity, built in the 19th century, the mansion was once home to the influential Rucker family, whose wealth and prominence left a lasting mark on Huntsville's society. However, decades of abandonment have transformed the grand home into a crumbling relic, and many believe the spirits of its former residents linger within its walls, unwilling or perhaps unable to move on. Visitors to the Rucker Mansion often speak of an immediate, heavy atmosphere upon entering the property. The air inside is said to carry a lingering chill, and many feel an unexplainable tension, as though unseen eyes are watching their every move. Dust-coated floors creak underfoot, and the sounds of footsteps echo unnaturally through empty halls, sometimes synchronized with the visitor's own movements, creating the sensation of being followed. Those who explore the mansion frequently report sudden, inexplicable noises, doors slamming shut, light fixtures flickering despite the absence of electricity, and objects shifting as if nudged by invisible hands. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena at the Rucker Mansion. Guests often glimpse fleeting silhouettes at the end of hallways, in stairwells, or behind partially opened doors. Some of these shadows appear distinctly human, moving with purpose before disappearing into walls or behind furniture. One of the most persistent legends involves a woman in period dress, often seen gliding silently through the home, her face obscured but her presence palpable. Several paranormal investigators have claimed to capture photographic or video evidence of this apparition, which seems to recur at specific times of day or in certain rooms, as though retracing the routines of life long past. Voices are another unsettling feature of the mansion's haunting. Visitors have reported hearing whispers echoing through empty rooms, sometimes calling names or issuing unintelligible commands. These disembodied sounds are particularly common in the mansion's upstairs bedrooms and the main hallway, where the acoustics of the high ceilings amplify even the faintest murmur. Paranormal investigators using audio equipment often record electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, that mimic these experiences, capturing snippets of conversation, soft cries, and even laughter that cannot be attributed to any living presence. Some EVP recordings have captured voices asking for help or urging the listener to leave, adding a chilling layer to the mansion's haunted reputation. The mansion's architecture and decay contribute significantly to its eerie atmosphere. The once opulent rooms, adorned with ornate woodwork, grand fireplaces, and intricate moldings, are now shrouded in dust, cobwebs, and peeling paint. Windows are broken or boarded up, casting fragmented light across the darkened interiors and creating shadows that seem to move independently of any natural source. The creaking of floorboards and the groaning of walls, settling over decades, only intensify the sense of unease, making it difficult to distinguish between natural noises and potential paranormal activity. Certain rooms in the mansion are considered hotspots for ghostly encounters. The grand parlor, once the site of social gatherings, has been the location of multiple sightings of the woman in period dress, while the upstairs bedrooms frequently produce whispers, sudden cold spots, and the sensation of being watched. Some visitors describe doors opening and closing on their own, seemingly in response to their presence. Others have reported hearing footsteps pacing above or behind them, despite being alone in the room. These experiences combine to create an environment where the past feels tangibly present, and where the history of the Rucker family continues to echo through time. The history of the Rucker family and the mansion itself offers context for the hauntings. Accounts suggest that the family faced personal tragedies, including untimely deaths, illnesses, and unexplained disappearances, which may have left emotional imprints within the home. Paranormal theories propose that locations marked by strong emotions, such as grief, anger, or fear, can retain energy that manifests as ghostly activity. In the case of the Rucker Mansion, the combination of familial drama and decades of abandonment seems to have created a fertile environment for lingering spirits. For those brave enough to explore the mansion, encounters often extend beyond sight and sound. Many visitors report a palpable presence, a sensation of being followed, or the feeling of invisible hands grazing their skin. Sudden chills, disorientation, and a sense of oppressive weight are commonly described, contributing to a fear that is both psychological and physical. These experiences leave a lasting impression, and many who leave the mansion report feeling as though part of them remains inside, unable to shake the pervasive sense of the home's restless spirits. Despite her, perhaps because of its reputation, the Rucker Mansion continues to draw paranormal enthusiasts, historians, and the curious alike. Each visit presents the possibility of witnessing something inexplicable, a shadow moving against the light, a whisper from the past, or the sudden appearance of a woman in period dress. The mansion stands as both a monument to history and a beacon for those intrigued by the supernatural, a place where the echoes of life, death, and lingering sorrow intersect in unsettling and unforgettable ways. The Cahaba River ruins in West Blockton, Alabama, stand as a haunting reminder of a once thriving industrial town, now reduced to crumbling buildings and empty streets. Situated along the banks of the Cahaba River, the town grew rapidly in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, fueled by coal mining and river transport. At its peak, the area was alive with the sounds of industry, clanging machinery, whistles signaling the start and end of shifts, and the voices of miners and townsfolk going about their daily routines. Today, however, those sounds have faded from the ears of the living, replaced by whispers from the past, echoing across the ruins. Visitors to the Cahaba River ruins often speak of an immediate, unsettling atmosphere, Even in the heat of the day, the abandoned factories, collapsed homes, and overgrown streets carry a sense of unease, as though the town itself remembers the lives once lived there. The air feels heavy, almost alive, and many report the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Footsteps echo strangely across the cracked pavement, and sudden cold spots appear without explanation, chilling visitors even under the sun. These sensations are especially intense near the old coal factories and warehouses, where miners once toiled in grueling and dangerous conditions. One of the most common phenomena reported at the Cahaba River ruins involves ghostly figures. Witnesses often describe seeing miners in soot-streaked clothing wandering among the ruins, carrying invisible tools or moving with purpose along the remnants of factory floors. Some apparitions appear to be townsfolk, strolling the deserted streets or pausing near homes long abandoned, as if caught in a loop of daily life frozen in time. Shadowy forms flicker at the edges of vision, vanishing when approached, yet their presence is palpable enough to make the hair on the back of the neck stand on end. Auditory experiences are equally chilling. Many visitors report hearing the sounds of machinery operating despite the factories having long since collapsed. The rhythmic clang of metal, the grinding of unseen gears, and the hiss of steam echo through the ruins, often intensifying at night. Disembodied cries, moans, and shouts are also common, sometimes intermingled with the clatter of imaginary tools. Paranormal investigators, using audio recording devices, have captured faint EVP snippets of conversation, urgent shouts, and ghostly commands that seem to emerge from the ruins themselves. These auditory phenomena often leave visitors questioning the boundary between memory and reality, as the ruins seem to replay echoes of the town's industrial past. Certain areas of the Cahaba River ruins are considered particularly active. Collapsed factories along the riverbank are hotspots for sightings of shadowy miners and mysterious machinery noises. Abandoned homes and boarding houses show high levels of reported activity as well, with visitors describing sudden drops in temperature, unexplained drafts, and fleeting glimpses of figures in windows. The river itself seems to carry its own haunting presence. Some claim to hear footsteps along its banks, or voices calling out over the water, even when no one else is nearby. Physical sensations often accompany these sightings and sounds. Many explorers report feeling a sudden weight on their shoulders or an icy touch against their skin. Others experience disorientation or dizziness when wandering through collapsed buildings, as if the ruins themselves are manipulating perception. These phenomena, coupled with the visual and auditory activity, contribute to a sense of being immersed in a place where time has warped, and the past continues to play out its final scenes. The history of the Cahaba River town helps explain the intensity of these hauntings. Life in the town was hard, with miners working long hours in dangerous conditions and families living in close quarters. Accidents were common, and fatalities were frequent, leaving emotional and energetic imprints on the landscape. When the town declined, abandoned by industry and overrun by nature, the unresolved suffering and memories of its residents may have lingered, manifesting as the spectral activity reported today. At night, the haunting qualities of the Cahaba River ruins intensify. Darkness shrouds familiar landmarks, turning collapsed walls and twisted metal into forms that seem alive. The sound of the river mingles with distant cries and clanging echoes, creating an unsettling symphony that seems to originate from nowhere, yet fills every corner of the ruins. Shadows appear to move independently of any light source, and visitors often report seeing figures standing at the edges of broken doorways or disappearing into rubble. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena leaves many feeling that the town's history is alive and actively communicating with the living. Paranormal investigators who explore the site often employ cameras, night vision equipment, and audio recording devices to document the activity. Many have captured anomalies, shadowy figures moving where no one is present, faint orbs of light hovering near collapsed structures, and unexplained sounds that mimic the work of long-dead miners. While skeptics attribute some occurrences to natural causes such as wind, wildlife, or structural noises, The consistency and frequency of reports across multiple visitors lend credibility to the town's haunted reputation. Despite its decay and the unsettling experiences it provokes, the Cahaba River ruins maintain a strange, somber beauty. Overgrown trees, the meandering river, and the rusting skeletons of factories serve as poignant reminders of a once thriving community. Yet, intertwined with this beauty is a persistent sense of the supernatural, a reminder that the lives, struggles, and tragedies of the past are never truly gone. For those who venture into the ruins, the Cahaba River town offers not just history, but an immersive encounter with the restless echoes of human life. A chilling reminder that some places never forget. The old Bryce Hospital Cemetery in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, lies in quiet desolation, just beyond the crumbling walls of the infamous psychiatric hospital it once served. For decades, the cemetery was the final resting place for patients who died within Bryce Hospital's walls. Many under circumstances that were far from clear. Records are incomplete, and over the years, stories of neglect, mistreatment, and sudden deaths have intertwined with the natural decay of the site, giving rise to legends of restless spirits who remain tethered to the grounds. Those who visit the cemetery often describe a chilling atmosphere that seems to press down upon them, as if the weight of sorrow and despair has settled permanently into the soil. Visitors often arrive expecting the silence of a long-abandoned graveyard, but instead find that the cemetery is anything but empty. Shadowy figures are frequently reported rising from the earth or drifting along the narrow, overgrown paths. Witnesses describe pale, indistinct forms that seem to flicker like mist, hovering above graves before vanishing without warning. Some figures are reportedly clothed in the hospital's outdated uniforms, their faces obscured, but their presence unmistakably human, while others appear as vague, sorrowful shapes that seem to cry silently into the wind. Auditory phenomena are a major part of the cemetery's haunting. Visitors often hear agonized moans, weeping, or faint cries for help that appear to come from multiple directions at once. The sounds are described as mournful and chilling, echoing across the graves in a way that seems both distant and unnervingly close. Paranormal investigators have recorded electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, in which voices plead for release or call out names, suggesting that some of the spirits remain tied to the place by unresolved pain, even when no one else is present. The sounds can be so vivid and unnerving that visitors feel compelled to leave the cemetery as quickly as possible. Physical sensations frequently accompany these ghostly encounters. Many report sudden drops in temperature. Even on warm days, some visitors feel an oppressive weight on their shoulders, a heaviness that seems to press down on them and drain energy. Others describe an intangible presence that follows them as they walk the narrow lanes, a cold, invisible companion that does not relent until they leave the cemetery. These sensations reinforce the feeling that the spirits are not merely memories but active, lingering presences with unfinished business. The cemetery's layout and decay add to its eerie atmosphere. Tombstones lean precariously, some toppled and half buried in the overgrowth, while moss and lichen creep across marble and granite markers, erasing names and dates. Rusted fences enclose parts of the grounds, creaking in the wind as though whispering secrets of the past. Narrow, winding paths lead through graves that seem to stretch endlessly, making it easy to feel lost even on familiar routes. In the dim light of late afternoon or evening, the shadows cast by decaying monuments and twisted trees create shifting shapes that appear to move independently of any breeze or natural motion. Many of the most intense reports come from the cemetery's older sections, where the earliest patients of Bryce Hospital were buried. These areas are often described as the heaviest, imbued with a sense of sorrow that cannot be shaken. Visitors report seeing clusters of shadowy figures among the graves, sometimes appearing to move as if reliving moments of anguish from their lives. Some explorers claim to hear whispers of names, or even see figures rise as though attempting to speak to the living, only to vanish when approached. Others have described the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes, or even of being guided along certain paths by an invisible force. The history of the hospital and its cemetery helps explain the depths of the hauntings. Bryce Hospital, once intended as a psychiatric facility, became infamous for overcrowding, mistreatment, and questionable practices. Many patients were abandoned or ignored, and countless others died without clear documentation. Their bodies were laid to rest in the cemetery, often in unmarked or hastily prepared graves. Paranormal experts believe that the intense emotional energy left behind by lives filled with suffering, despair, and neglect may have lingered in the land itself, manifesting in the ghostly phenomena reported today. Visitors also describe a profound emotional effect when standing among the graves. Even those who do not witness apparitions or hear sounds often feel an unshakable sense of sorrow and unease. The atmosphere is thick with what some describe as a lingering despair, a heaviness that seems to cling to the soul. Many leave feeling drained, as though they have absorbed some of the anguish that permeates the grounds. This pervasive sense of grief is a hallmark of the cemetery, making it one of the most emotionally intense haunted sites in Alabama. Nighttime visits amplify the haunting qualities of the cemetery. In the darkness, shadows lengthen, and forms that were once barely visible become more distinct. The moans and whispers grow louder to some, and the cold spots intensify, chilling visitors to the bone. Some report seeing figures rising directly from graves, moving slowly and deliberately across the ground, while others hear footsteps behind them that stop as suddenly as they began. Those brave or perhaps foolhardy enough to remain after dusk often recount experiences that linger in memory long after leaving a sense that the spirits are watching, waiting, and unable to rest. Ultimately, the Old Bryce Hospital Cemetery is a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural intersect. The graves themselves, the stories of suffering and neglect, and the repeated encounters with ghostly figures create an environment that is both chilling and compelling. Those who enter are not merely visiting a cemetery, are stepping into a space where sorrow and unresolved anguish linger, and where the echoes of the past remain startlingly present. For visitors, the experience is unforgettable, a haunting reminder that some souls are unable to find peace, tethered forever to the ground where they were laid to rest. The Alabama State Capitol, in Montgomery, Alabama, stands as a monument to the state's political and social history. But beneath its grand facade and gleaming columns lies a darker, less discussed side, while celebrated for its architecture and historical significance. Many visitors and paranormal investigators claim that the Capitol is haunted by echoes of the past. The building's long history, entwined with slavery, political conflict, and Civil War turmoil, appears to have left residual energy that manifests in unsettling and inexplicable ways. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena at the Capitol. Visitors have described seeing indistinct forms moving along hallways, often vanishing when approached. Some witnesses claim to have glimpsed figures dressed in 19th-century attire, politicians in formal coats, soldiers in period uniforms, and enslaved individuals in humble clothing, appearing as if frozen in time, yet subtly aware of the living. These figures purportedly linger in the older wings of the building, particularly near offices and chambers that saw decades of political maneuvering, debate, and decision-making, some of which had profound and tragic consequences for many lives. Auditory experiences are equally pervasive. Unexplained voices, often faint and unintelligible, are said to echo through hallways, conference rooms, and stairwells. Some visitors report hearing fragments of speeches, whispers of arguments, or even the clatter of quills and papers, as though the lawmakers of centuries past are still attempting to complete unfinished business. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, in areas thought to be empty, hearing phrases like "do it now," or "this cannot stand," words that seem to echo historical tension and urgency. The voices often carry a sense of distress or agitation, leaving listeners with an undeniable sense of unease. Physical sensations accompany these sightings and sounds. Many visitors report sudden, inexplicable temperature drops in certain rooms, as if a cold presence has passed through. In some cases, the chill is accompanied by the feeling of being watched, or even the sensation of an invisible hand brushing against a shoulder or arm. These experiences are particularly intense in less trafficked sections of the building, storage rooms, old offices, and hidden corridors that have remained largely untouched for decades. The combination of oppressive heat and sudden cold seems to heighten the emotional intensity, leaving visitors physically and mentally on edge. The Capitol's history helps to explain the depth and complexity of these hauntings. Constructed in the mid-19th century, the building witnessed critical moments in Alabama's political history, including debates over slavery, the Civil War, and Reconstruction. Political figures often made decisions with profound consequences, many of which involved suffering, injustice, or death. It is perhaps this concentrated emotional energy, the stress, fear, and sometimes guilt of powerful men making consequential choices that some believe has imprinted itself on the building. Civil War connections deepen the Capitol's aura of unrest. Soldiers marched past its halls, and the building itself became a symbol of Confederate governance. Some of the most frequently reported apparitions are uniformed soldiers seen patrolling corridors or standing in silent vigil in historic chambers. Witnesses sometimes describe feeling a profound sense of tension or unease when these figures appear, as if the soldiers are guarding something or someone lost to history. The haunting echoes are said to be most intense near rooms where strategic meetings and military discussions once took place, suggesting that the land itself has absorbed the memories of conflict. Accounts of encounters with enslaved individuals are particularly poignant. Some visitors claim to see ghostly figures of enslaved men and women walking the older hallways or standing near the main offices. These apparitions often carry an air of sorrow, their movements slow and deliberate, and some witnesses report hearing faint cries or whispers of prayer. Historians note that the Capitol's construction and operation were deeply intertwined with forced labor, leaving a legacy of suffering. Many believe that the spirits of those who endured unimaginable hardship remain tethered to the very spaces where they lived, worked, and suffered. Paranormal investigators have noted that the Capitol's older architectural elements, thick wooden doors, hidden stairwells, and vaulted ceilings, seem to amplify spiritual activity. Sounds carry in strange ways. Footsteps echo unnaturally, and shadows appear to move independently of light sources. Some investigators report that AVP recordings taken in certain rooms yield voices of people who were never recorded in historical documents, adding to the building's mystique and sense of unresolved history. Visitors' experiences vary from subtle impressions to intense encounters. Some report fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures in hallways or at the tops of staircases. Others feel sudden, unexplainable chills or the sensation of being followed. A few claim that doors they thought were locked opened on their own, or that objects, papers, pens, or books shifted slightly as if touched by an unseen hand. Even longtime staff members occasionally report feeling eyes on them when walking through older offices alone, or hearing muffled voices in empty rooms. Ultimately, the Alabama State Capitol serves as more than just a symbol of political power. It is a repository of history, emotion, and unresolved energy. The shadows, voices, and cold presences that haunt its halls are not just the stuff of legend. They are tied to the profound and often painful events that unfolded within its walls. For those who enter, the experience is both fascinating and unnerving, a vivid reminder that some echoes of the past refuse to fade. Visiting the Capitol is not merely a tour through history. It is a journey through the residual echoes of lives shaped by ambition, conflict, and suffering. The building stands as a testament to Alabama's history, both its grandeur and its tragedies. And those who step into its halls may feel the weight of centuries pressing silently upon them. The haunting is a constant reminder that history is never truly gone, and some spirits remain, watching and waiting in the shadowed corridors of the Alabama State Capitol. Fort Mims, located along the Tensas River in Alabama, is more than just a historical site. It is a chilling reminder of one of the bloodiest episodes in early American history. In 1813, during the Creek War, the fort was the site of a brutal massacre in which hundreds of settlers and militia were slaughtered. Today, the ruins stand as a solemn testament to that tragic day, and many visitors and paranormal investigators claim that the violent energy of that event has never truly left the grounds. The first thing most visitors notice upon approaching Fort Mims is the eerie stillness that blankets the site. The air feels heavier, almost charged, as though the echoes of the past are lingering just beneath the surface. Some explorers report feeling an inexplicable sense of dread long before they see the crumbling stockade walls or the remnants of buildings. This foreboding atmosphere is often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, even on the hottest summer days, a phenomenon many attribute to the lingering spirits of those who perished in the massacre. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported paranormal phenomena at Fort Mims. Witnesses describe ghostly soldiers in period uniforms marching silently along the grounds, as if reliving their duties over 2 centuries later. Some have even seen civilians, men, women, and children, running in panic across the site, only to vanish when approached. These apparitions often appear near the ruins of homes and barracks, places where many lives were lost. And observers report an overwhelming sense of sorrow and terror in their presence. Auditory phenomena are equally chilling. Visitors often claim to hear the distant echo of gunfire, even though the area is far removed from modern conflict. Some report cries for help, the shouts of men in battle, and the screams of women and children fleeing unseen attackers. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, in which voices can be heard pleading, calling names, or issuing urgent commands, though no one is physically present. The combination of visual and auditory hauntings creates an experience that is both immersive and profoundly unsettling. Physical sensations are another hallmark of Fort Mims hauntings. Several explorers have reported feeling cold hands grip their shoulders or brush against their skin while walking among the ruins, as if the spirits of the massacre's victims are still reaching out from beyond the grave. These experiences are often accompanied by sudden chills, racing heartbeats, and a feeling of being watched, even when the visitor is completely alone. Many describe an overwhelming sense of being trapped in the emotional residue of that horrific day, a sensation that lingers long after leaving the site. Historical context helps explain why Fort Mims is such a hotspot for paranormal activity. In August of 1813, the fort was overrun by a faction of Creek warriors. More than 500 men, women, and children were killed, and the fort's defenses were overwhelmed in a matter of hours. Contemporary accounts describe the chaos and terror of the event, which left a permanent scar on the land and on the collective memory of the region. Some believe that the extreme fear, suffering, and violence experienced during the massacre created a kind of spiritual imprint, a concentrated energy that continues to manifest as ghostly activity. Shadow figures and cold spots are often reported near the remains of the fort's stockade, where defenders made their last stand. Explorers recount seeing phantom rifles and bayonets glinting in the sunlight, only for the image to vanish when approached. Others report the sensation of unseen hands tugging at clothing or pulling them towards certain areas, as though the spirits are trying to reenact the events of that fateful day. Many claim that the further they venture into the ruins, the heavier the atmosphere becomes, almost suffocating with grief and unresolved anguish. Visitors have also noted strange interactions with the natural environment. Some say the wind carries distant cries, whispers, and the metallic clang of weapons. Animals are often uneasy around the site, with birds and insects acting erratically, as if aware of some unseen presence. These occurrences, combined with the visual and auditory manifestations, make Fort Mims one of Alabama's most intensely haunted locations, attracting ghost hunters, historians, and thrill-seekers alike. While some skeptics dismiss these reports as the product of imagination, the sheer volume and consistency of experiences suggest a more complex reality. Multiple paranormal teams have documented inexplicable occurrences, from shadowy apparitions to EVPs of voices in anguish. Visitors often leave with a lingering sense of unease, describing experiences that are difficult to rationalize. yet impossible to ignore. The fort, in essence, serves as a conduit for the unresolved energy of those who suffered and died during the massacre. Ultimately, Fort Mims is not just a historical site, it is a living reminder of human suffering and the persistence of memory. The ruins, silent to the casual eye, speak volumes to those who are willing to listen. Shadowy figures, cries for help, and chilling cold spots are constant reminders that some tragedies leave a mark not only on history books, but on the very land itself. For those who visit, Fort Mims offers a haunting journey through the echoes of violence, fear, and sorrow, a place where the past refuses to remain buried, and the spirits of the fallen continue to wander among the ruins, eternally bound to the site of their tragic end. Sloss Furnaces Cemetery, nestled near the sprawling industrial complex in Birmingham, Alabama, is more than just a burial ground. It is a somber testament to the lives lost amid the harsh realities of early industry. During the height of Birmingham's iron and steel production, countless laborers toiled under grueling conditions, facing relentless heat, suffocating smoke, and dangerous machinery. Many succumbed to fatal accidents, industrial mishaps, or epidemics, and their final resting place became this small, often overlooked cemetery. Today, visitors claim the site is alive with echoes of the past, a chilling reminder that some spirits never truly leave the place where they suffered and died. From the moment one enters the cemetery, a heavy, almost oppressive atmosphere hangs in the air. Some visitors report feeling an immediate sense of unease, as though unseen eyes are watching from among the gravestones. The ground is uneven, and weathered markers lean precariously, etched with names that have long been forgotten by history, but are remembered in the whispers that haunt the space. Those who linger near certain graves describe hearing distant sounds of hammering, the clang of metal, and the unmistakable rhythm of footsteps trudging across the ground's echoes of laborers who once walked the furnaces and factories nearby. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena at Sloss Furnaces Cemetery. Witnesses describe fleeting images of men dressed in early 20th century work clothes, often stained with soot or dirt, wandering between headstones or appearing at the edges of the tree line. These figures vanish when approached, leaving only a cold gust of wind or the faint smell of smoke in their wake. Some explorers claim that these apparitions sometimes reenact the labors and struggles of their past lives, moving with heavy steps as if burdened by unseen tools or machinery, giving the impression that the cemetery itself is a stage for a ghostly workforce. Auditory experiences are equally unnerving. Many visitors have reported muffled cries, urgent whispers, and low moans emanating from the cemetery without any visible source. Paranormal investigators have captured EVPs, in which phrases such as "help me" or "don't leave me" can be faintly discerned, their desperate tones seeming to carry the weight of decades of suffering. Even during the quietest days, some swear they hear the metallic clang of hammers and tools, as though the work never truly ended and the spirits are eternally bound to their labor. The cemetery is also notorious for unexplained physical sensations. Numerous visitors report sudden cold spots that make the air feel icy, even in the heat of summer. Some have felt invisible hands brush against their arms or shoulders, sometimes with a gentle touch, other times with an unsettling pressure that prompts them to move away. A few have described a sense of being followed, a persistent feeling that something unseen is tracking their every step among the gravestones. These phenomena suggest that the energy at Sloss Furnaces Cemetery is not only residual, but interactive, reacting to the presence of the living in ways that are both eerie and compelling. Historical context amplifies the cemetery's haunted reputation. Sloss Furnaces, the industrial complex nearby, was notorious for its dangerous working conditions. Accidents were common, with molten metal, collapsing structures, and malfunctioning machinery claiming numerous lives. Additionally, outbreaks of disease swept through the labor camps, leaving the sick and dying interred hastily in the cemetery. The intense fear, pain, and sudden deaths experienced here are believed by some paranormal enthusiasts to have left a lasting spiritual imprint. Visitors often speculate that the cemetery acts as a liminal space, a place where the boundary between life and death is thin, allowing echoes of suffering to persist. Many explorers have reported interactions that are difficult to rationalize. Shadow figures may appear to follow them along pathways, disappearing behind gravestones. Whispered warnings and cries sometimes coincide with sudden changes in temperature or gusts of wind that seem to have no natural explanation. Some have noticed inexplicable marks on the ground or slight disturbances in the soil near certain graves, as if the spirits are restless and still trying to communicate with the living. The consistency of these reports suggests that Sloss Furnaces Cemetery harbors an intense concentration of paranormal activity, drawing both amateur ghost hunters and seasoned investigators alike. The haunting extends beyond individual experiences. Animals near the cemetery often behave erratically, with dogs barking at invisible presences or birds fleeing from empty spaces. The surrounding trees sway even when the air is still, casting long, twisting shadows that give the sense of movement where none exists. For many, the combination of visual, auditory, and physical manifestations creates an immersive and unsettling experience that blurs the line between history and haunting. Life and death. Sloss Furnaces Cemetery stands as a poignant reminder of the human cost of industrial progress. Each weathered gravestone tells a story of labor, struggle, and premature death. The ghostly apparitions, whispers, and cold spots offer a window into the past, a way for visitors to feel the lingering energy of those who suffered long ago. It is a place where the echoes of pain, fear, and toil remain palpable, a cemetery that refuses to be silent, a site where the past continues to reach out to the living. For those who dare to explore its grounds, Sloss Furnaces Cemetery is more than a resting place. It is a portal into the haunting legacy of Birmingham's industrial age. Shadowy laborers, disembodied whispers, and the chilling clang of invisible tools remind visitors that history is never truly gone, and the spirits of those who perished amid the smoke and fire remain present, watching, waiting, and echoing their stories through the night. Belmont Mansion, perched quietly in Tuscumbia, Alabama, is more than just an architectural relic, is a vessel of history, tragedy, and lingering spirits. Built in the early 19th century as a grand plantation home, the mansion was a symbol of wealth and status. With its neoclassical columns, expansive porches, and meticulously designed interiors. Yet, beneath its stately facade lies a darker story. Over decades of abandonment, the mansion has garnered a reputation as one of Alabama's most haunted estates, attracting visitors, paranormal investigators, and curious thrill-seekers drawn to the whispers of the past that seem to linger within its walls. From the moment one steps onto the property, a palpable sense of unease can settle over even the bravest explorer. The mansion, though crumbling and weathered by time, retains an air of faded grandeur. Windows, many of them shattered or clouded with dust, seem to watch silently as visitors approach. Locals often speak of shadowy figures glimpsed behind these windows, appearing to observe the living with a quiet, unsettling awareness. Some describe seeing apparitions of well-dressed men and women, their movements deliberate and slow, as though trapped in the routines of a life long gone. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere grows heavier, and the echoes of history seem almost tangible. Visitors frequently report sudden drops in temperature that chill the skin, even in warm weather. Cold spots seem to follow intruders through hallways, wrapping around corners, or lingering near doorways, as though unseen residents are monitoring their every step. Many have claimed to feel the brush of invisible fingers along their arms, a fleeting sensation that leaves them startled and on edge. Others have described faint footsteps echoing across creaking floors, footsteps that do not match the number of people present. Sightings of apparitions are among the most persistent and disturbing reports. Some visitors recount seeing a woman in a flowing gown gliding silently through the main hall, her features indistinct but her presence undeniable. Others describe shadowy figures in period attire appearing at the tops of staircases or vanishing abruptly at the end of long corridors. These sightings often coincide with other paranormal phenomena. Doors opening and closing on their own, lights flickering in rooms with no electrical connection, and objects subtly shifting as though nudged by unseen hands. The mansion, in many ways, seems alive, responding to the presence of the living with a mixture of curiosity, caution, and residual energy. Sounds are equally chilling. Many have reported hearing whispers that carry through empty rooms, low murmurs that seem to call out names or offer faint warnings. Occasionally, the distant sound of piano notes, though no instrument is present, can be heard echoing through the hallways, accompanied by soft laughter or murmured conversations. Some visitors have described a sensation of being watched while moving through the parlor or dining room, only to catch a shadow slipping around a corner or a flicker of movement in a dusty mirror. The mansion's history adds weight to these experiences. Built as a plantation home, Belmont bore witness to the trials, tribulations, and social complexities of the antebellum South. Enslaved workers, plantation owners, and their families all passed through its halls, each leaving a mark on the space in the form of memory, energy, or residual emotion. Over time, hardship, grief, and tragedy became part of the mansion's fabric. Some researchers speculate that these intense emotions contributed to the spiritual imprint that now manifests as the hauntings visitors report. Paranormal investigators have frequently documented activity that defies explanation. Using EVP recorders, cameras, and motion sensors, they have captured strange orbs of light, fleeting silhouettes, and audio recordings of whispers that cannot be attributed to the living. One investigation caught the image of a man descending a staircase, only for him to vanish before the camera could pan. Others report hearing multiple voices speaking simultaneously in empty rooms, or footsteps following them through hallways, stopping abruptly when they turn to look. Even the exterior grounds of Belmont Mansion are not untouched by the paranormal. Visitors walking the overgrown gardens or along the crumbling carriage paths often report hearing rustling in the brush or the distant sounds of children playing, a haunting reminder of the generations who once lived and worked on the estate. Some claim to see figures standing among the trees, only to disappear when approached, leaving only the whisper of the wind through the branches. The mansion's combination of architectural beauty, historical significance, and chilling supernatural activity has made it a focal point for ghost enthusiasts. It serves as a bridge between the present and the past, allowing those who explore it to sense the lives, sorrows, and memories that persist within its walls. Each report of shadowy figures, unexplained cold spots, or disembodied sounds reinforces the notion that Belmont Mansion is more than abandoned. It is inhabited, in some way, by the echoes of history. For those brave enough to enter, the mansion offers both awe and terror. Shadowy residents, cold drafts, and faint, haunting whispers create an experience that is equal parts historical immersion and paranormal investigation. Belmont Mansion is a place where the past does not stay buried, where memories and spirits linger, and where visitors cannot help but feel that they are walking among the echoes of lives long gone, yet never truly at rest. Shiloh, Alabama, though quieter today than it was during its bloody past, retains a lingering presence that many visitors and paranormal enthusiasts describe as chillingly tangible. The fields, once a site of fierce Civil War battles, are now quiet expanses of grass and trees. Yet the echoes of conflict seem to reverberate through the land. Those who wander the preserved areas often report sensations and sightings that defy simple explanation, suggesting that the trauma and intensity of the past may have left a permanent imprint on the battlefield. Witnesses consistently describe the sounds of war overlaying the serene landscape. From a distance, some have heard the sharp crack of rifle fire, the roar of cannons, and the clatter of sabers on armor. At times, the noises are so vivid and close that visitors instinctively duck for cover, expecting a volley or charge that never comes. Other times, the sounds are faint, almost ghostly, lingering in the air like a distant memory of violence. Many describe these auditory experiences as not merely echoes, but as full-bodied sensations, where the intensity of fear and urgency from the original soldiers seems to be carried on the wind. The visual phenomena reported at Shiloh are equally unsettling. Shadowy figures are frequently seen moving across the fields, their outlines distinct enough to make out the shape of uniforms, rifles, or cavalry hats. Some observers claim that these figures appear to be reenacting moments from the battle, charging across the terrain or huddling behind fallen trees as though avoiding gunfire. Other figures stand silently in the mist, motionless yet unmistakably present, watching the living as if the dead have not entirely left the battlefield. A recurring description involves ghostly soldiers walking side by side in formation, disappearing suddenly when approached or when the sun catches the mist in a certain way. The psychological impact on visitors can be profound. Many describe a heavy feeling in the air, as though the weight of the countless lives lost presses down on them. Cold spots appear inexplicably, even on hot days, often in areas where skirmishes or mass casualties are historically documented. Some individuals report feeling an invisible touch or brush on the shoulder, a hand gripping an arm, when they are alone among the trees or in the long grass. For others, an oppressive dread settles in, compelling them to move quickly through particular parts of the field. Paranormal investigators who have spent hours on site report equipment malfunctions, unexplained sounds, and visual anomalies on video. Cameras sometimes capture blurred figures moving through trees or across open fields, though no person is present when the footage is reviewed. EVPs have recorded faint voices calling orders, shouting, or crying out in pain, often in tones that seem filled with urgency and fear. In some cases, the recordings include phrases or names that are difficult to interpret, leaving researchers to wonder if the voices are repeating fragments of actual soldiers' last moments. Many visitors also speak of temporal distortions or disorienting experiences. Time can feel elongated or compressed, with minutes stretching into what feels like hours, and vice versa. Some have reported seeing flashes of light that briefly illuminate figures or glimpses of battle lines that vanish almost instantly, leaving only the quiet field behind. These experiences often leave witnesses shaken, with the sense that they have momentarily glimpsed another layer of reality over the familiar landscape. The legends surrounding Shiloh suggest that the souls of soldiers and civilians alike remain tethered to the land, unable or unwilling to leave. Locals tell of apparitions appearing in the early morning mist, long before the public arrives, with figures marching silently or kneeling as if attending to the wounded. Some accounts speak of soldiers carrying their fallen comrades, vanishing into the air before they can be reached. Others describe phantom horsemen galloping across the fields, their hooves silent, only to disappear among the trees. Visitors often report recurring patterns in these hauntings. Apparitions tend to appear along ridges and in gullies where heavy fighting is documented. Sounds of battle gun fire, cannon blasts, and screams tend to emerge near old encampments or areas where mass casualties occurred. The repetition of these phenomena, sometimes at the same time of day or under similar weather conditions, suggests a residual haunting, where the intense emotions and energy from the battle have imprinted themselves on the environment. The experience of Shiloh's haunted battlefield is one that mixes history with the supernatural, leaving a lasting impression on those who venture onto the land. It is a place where the living can feel the weight of the dead, where the past refuses to remain buried, and where shadowy figures and phantom sounds bring the realities of war into the present. For many, visiting the site is not merely a historical pilgrimage but a confrontation with the lingering presence of a violent past. A reminder that the echoes of history are never fully silent. Those who explore Shiloh, Alabama, often leave with a profound sense of connection to the events that unfolded centuries ago. Whether through the distant cries of phantom soldiers, the fleeting glimpse of a shadow in uniform, or the oppressive weight of lingering sorrow, the battlefield stands as a haunting testament to the lives lost and the energy left behind, and where the brave who walk its grounds may feel, if only for a moment, that they are not entirely alone. The Rattlesnake Saloon ruins in Birmingham, Alabama, stand as a grim testament to the rowdy days of the city's past. Once a thriving hub of alcohol, gambling, and nightly revelry, the saloon drew miners, laborers, and drifters, many of whom left behind stories of violence and tragedy. Today, only the skeletal remains of the building survive, walls cracked and windows shattered, yet visitors insist that the chaos of its past lingers like a stubborn stain on the air. Explorers stepping through the rusted doors and splintered floors often report sensations that range from sudden chills to outright terror, as though the spirits of long-dead patrons continue their nightly revelries in some spectral form. The most common accounts involve auditory phenomena. Guests consistently report hearing shouting and laughter echoing through the empty rooms. These aren't soft, distant sounds, they are sharp, aggressive bursts, as if a drunken brawl is erupting just around the corner. Some witnesses describe the unmistakable clatter of chairs toppling and glass breaking, though the rooms they occupy show no evidence of disturbance. The laughter often carries a cruel, mocking tone, punctuated by curses and the slurred voices of men and women long gone. Many describe the experience as disorienting, with sounds moving unpredictably around them, as though the saloon itself is alive and watching their reactions. Shadowy figures are frequently reported. Patrons appear at the edges of vision, fleeting glimpses of men with dirt-streaked faces, wide-brimmed hats, and spectral bottles in hand. Some seem to be engaged in fights, swinging fists at empty air, while others stare from dark corners before dissolving into mist. Paranormal investigators have captured video of these apparitions, often blurred or barely visible, but enough to suggest the lingering presence of the saloon's former guests. A recurring figure, described by visitors, is a large man with a rattlesnake tattoo on his arm, who seems to patrol the main hall, vanishing whenever someone tries to approach him. Temperature fluctuations are a hallmark of the hauntings at Rattlesnake Saloon. Even on hot, humid Alabama afternoons, visitors report icy drafts that sweep through rooms with no windows or broken walls. These sudden cold spots are often accompanied by a tingling sensation on the skin, like fingers brushing against the arms or shoulders, though no one else is present. Some explorers claim to have felt a hand grip their ankle or tug at their coat, prompting them to stumble and spin around, only to find nothing there. The combination of auditory, visual, and tactile disturbances creates an atmosphere that is deeply unnerving, leaving many visitors feeling watched or pursued. The history of violence that occurred within the saloon's walls seems to echo in these hauntings. Historical records show that fights were common, with knives and bottles frequently used as weapons. Deaths were reported, often from alcohol-fueled brawls or disputes over gambling debts. Some paranormal teams suggest that the extreme anger, fear, and pain generated in these incidents created residual energy that now imprints itself on the building. This is particularly evident in the main hall, where most encounters occur, and where shadow figures are seen reenacting aggressive gestures or shouting threats. Some explorers have documented encounters with a more aggressive spirit presence. Reports include being shoved, tripped, or struck by invisible forces, often accompanied by a sudden surge of cold air. The sounds of combat shouts, punches landing, and the crash of bottles sometimes seem to surround visitors, growing louder as they attempt to leave, only to disappear once they step outside. Others report doors slamming behind them or gates rattling, despite windless conditions, heightening the sense that the saloon is actively resisting intrusions. The Rattlesnake Saloon also has a reputation for disorienting those who linger too long. Visitors often describe a sense of temporal distortion, feeling as if minutes have stretched into hours, or that paths through the building loop back on themselves. Some report glimpsing rooms or hallways that vanish when approached, replaced by walls or rubble. This, combined with the unpredictable auditory and tactile phenomena, creates a disorienting environment in which visitors question what is real and what is spectral. Despite the danger and fear, the Rattlesnake Saloon ruins continue to draw ghost hunters and thrill seekers. Many are equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and thermal imaging devices, hoping to capture evidence of the paranormal activity. Some have claimed success, reporting EVPs of laughter, shouting, and cries of anger. as well as temperature readings that spike or plummet without explanation. Yet, even with documentation, the emotional impact of experiencing the hauntings firsthand is profound. Visitors often leave shaken, with a lingering sense of unease that follows them long after they depart. The saloon's reputation has grown over the decades, fueled by a combination of historical accounts and modern paranormal reports. Locals warn newcomers that the ruins are not merely abandoned, they are inhabited by the unresolved emotions of those who once filled the building with chaos and conflict. Those who venture inside are advised to remain cautious, respectful, and prepared for encounters that defy explanation. Sloss Furnace Night Tours in Birmingham, Alabama, offer visitors a glimpse into the eerie and haunted history of one of the city's most notorious industrial sites. By day, the massive ironworks stand as a relic of Birmingham's steel industry. But after sunset, the sprawling complex transforms into a place of unsettling activity. Guides and guests alike report phenomena that go far beyond the creaking of old metal or the whisper of the night wind, hinting at spirits still lingering from decades of grueling labor and untimely deaths. Visitors begin the tours as twilight fades into darkness, winding through rusted walkways, towering furnaces, and abandoned warehouses. The air is thick with the smell of old metal and dust, and as night deepens, the atmosphere shifts. Many guests report sudden cold drafts that cut through heavy jackets, or chills that seem to follow them down narrow corridors. These temperature anomalies are often accompanied by the faint sound of hammers striking unseen anvils, or the rhythmic clanging of machinery that has long since been dismantled. Shadow figures are a frequent occurrence during the night tours. Guests have reported seeing workers in soot-streaked overalls moving quickly along the metal catwalks, disappearing when approached or when light is shown in their direction. Some appear to be performing tasks as if the furnaces were still operational, hammering on invisible tools or inspecting phantom equipment. One recurring figure, described by guides, is that of a tall man with a soot-stained cap, who seems to watch groups of visitors from the shadows before vanishing without a trace. Many believe these figures are echoes of the men and women who spent their lives at Sloss Furnace, some of whom never left due to accidents, disease, or exhaustion. Auditory phenomena are another hallmark of the night tours. Visitors frequently report hearing disembodied voices whispering in the corridors, often too faint to interpret, yet distinctly human. Some guests swear they have heard urgent shouts for help, or the sounds of arguments erupting near empty rooms. Others have described footsteps pacing behind them, even though the metal catwalks creak only when they themselves move. On occasion, the sound of a distant scream or the echo of someone calling a name sends chills down the spine, leaving guests hyper-aware of every creak, gust, and shadow. Strange lights also contribute to the unsettling atmosphere. Several visitors have reported glowing orbs drifting along hallways, flickering lights above the furnaces, and sudden flashes of illumination that vanish as quickly as they appear. Paranormal investigators suggest these lights may be manifestations of residual energy left behind by the intense labor, stress, and sometimes tragic deaths that occurred on the site. Others believe they are spirits attempting to make themselves known, using light as a medium to interact with the living. Guides often share stories of the most active areas, warning visitors about certain rooms and catwalks where hauntings are most intense. The main blast furnace and its surrounding walkways are cited frequently. Many claim to have felt the sensation of being followed while traversing these paths, only to find themselves alone upon turning around. In the warehouses and storage areas, visitors report sudden cold spots, objects moving inexplicably, and even the sensation of an unseen presence brushing past them. Some have felt a tap on the shoulder or heard faint breathing close by, though no one else is in the vicinity. For thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts, the night tours are both exciting and terrifying. The combination of historical tragedy and unexplained activity creates an environment where the past seems to bleed into the present. Those who have visited report an adrenaline-fueled mix of awe and fear, often leaving with stories they can scarcely explain. The tours have become known as one of the most intense ghost experiences in Alabama, offering a first-hand encounter with a haunted industrial past. Paranormal investigators often accompany the tours, documenting experiences with cameras, audio recorders, and thermal sensors. Many claim to have captured EVPs of urgent whispers, footsteps on catwalks, and the sounds of machinery running in areas where nothing remains. Guides caution that the energy at Sloss Furnace is unpredictable, and the building seems to respond to the presence of the living, intensifying disturbances when intrusions occur in certain locations. The history of Sloss Furnace helps explain why it has become such a focal point for paranormal activity. Opened in the late 19th century, it employed hundreds of workers who faced dangerous conditions daily. Accidents were frequent, and fatalities not uncommon. Workers endured long hours, intense heat, and heavy machinery, often succumbing to injuries or illness. The cumulative stress, suffering, and untimely deaths are believed to have imprinted on the facility, creating lingering spiritual energy that manifests during the night tours. The combination of history, architecture, and paranormal activity makes Sloss Furnace night tours a unique experience. The tours offer more than a chance to explore an industrial relic, provide a glimpse into a world where the labor and lives of countless workers continue to echo through time. The cold drafts, whispering voices, shadow figures, and inexplicable lights make it a location that both fascinates and frightens, drawing those curious about the supernatural and the haunted corners of Alabama's history. For those brave enough to attend, the night tours at Sloss Furnace are a journey into the unknown. Visitors walk paths once trodden by men and women who shaped the steel industry, only to find themselves followed by the echoes of lives cut short. Every creak, every shadow, every sudden gust of cold air serves as a reminder that some places never truly let go of their past, and some spirits never leave their work unfinished. Alabama's haunted locations are a chilling testament to the state's dark history. From abandoned hospitals and plantations to battlefields and ghost towns, each site carries stories of suffering, tragedy, and unresolved spirits. Those who dare to explore these places often report encounters that defy explanation: shadow figures, disembodied voices, sudden chills, and unexplained physical interactions. These haunted sites are not just remnants of history. They are living reminders that the past never truly dies. Whether you are a paranormal investigator or a thrill seeker, Alabama offers a glimpse into the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifyingly supernatural. As the sun sets and darkness descends, the spirits of Alabama's past continue to roam, forever echoing the stories of lives that were lost, forgotten, or never allowed to rest.